Coming to you live from the offices of Chapter 1 Films in Charlotte, North Carolina, this is the 4D Podcast with your hosts, Nathaniel Levinson, Greg Prinz, and Liam Maxwell. A new dimension in entertainment. This is the 4D Podcast.
We're back.
Hooray.
I feel like I say that every time.
I mean,
We
it
are
is
back.
true
We
that
are
every
so back,
time we get back on the show, we are technically back.
Yeah.
We are back. It's
I'm
2
not lying.
weeks, so it's like, it's a good stretch. And in this case, it was 3 weeks because our internet exploded last week.
Mm-hmm.
This is true. We, for those of you sitting at home, hold
Which
on.
would-
I am
For those of
Presumably
you last
most of
Thursday,
you.
for those of you last Thursday, just waited for us.
The three
For
of
those of you
who are like,
whose
"Where's the
entire
podcast?"
whose entire just time was ruined last week, we had some internet problems, and yeah, we had to postpone. But hey, we're back,
so back.
and we've got a really exciting show. I'm pretty pumped for this one because we got a great guest on. Nathaniel, why don't you introduce the people to our guest host?
Yes, this is Alan. Please tell me you put that on the
so
sound bite.
monotone.
We talked about
So
this.
monotone.
Oh my
We talked about
gosh.
this. We talked about this, and you had weeks to do this.
That's on me.
Oh, there was a soundbite you
Yeah.
requested.
Have you seen
No, I
Have you
got
seen
that
Jurassic Park
soundbite.
3?
Yeah, it's
Have you seen the
while.
clip from Jurassic Park 3?
Maybe.
So he's
thing
like
is-
sleeping on an airplane,
yeah.
and he hallucinates of a lot. He wakes up, but he doesn't actually wake up. Like he's still in the dream,
Mm-hmm.
and he looks over and there's a velociraptor, and the velociraptor goes, "Alan."
It's because like he's dreaming about whatever,
Yeah.
like running away from dinosaurs, but then his buddy next to him's trying to wake him up, and his
Yeah.
name's Alan. And so all of a sudden he just looks over, and it's a dinosaur in the airplane, and he's like, Alan.
No,
What?
it's not. It's just Alan.
That's so campy.
The problem is
And this
though,
connects because that's my name?
That's literally it. That's
All
the
right,
only
all right,
connection there.
All right, okay.
Is that I can't call anyone named Alan anything other than Alan. and you can ask Greg every time, like, "How's Alan?"
it is true. Every time we talk about you, Alan, he is.
This happened a lot?
Yes,
We talk about you quite a bit.
yes. That's all we talk about.
Was Alan in the original Jurassic Park?
Yeah.
He is, right?
Yeah, he's
is
the-
Alan.
That's Jurassic.
Is he the best Alan
he's the
in
guy who
cinema
does-
history?
What other Allens are there?
There's got to be more.
Alan,
Good
like
question.
an actor,
Are you saying- yeah,
or
are you
Alan
saying
like
like
actors?
actors, or are you saying
no,
Alan
no,
characters named Alan?
characters.
I'm struggling to think of any.
So let's say it is. So it would be
So
an appropriate
he is the
soundbite.
best.
Yeah.
He's the great.
Top
Anyways,
95
continue.
fictional characters named Alan.
Wait, 95? There's no shot.
I swear, look at it. Sorry.
100?
No,
Well, who's
derail.
number one?
Alan Grant is number one.
There you go.
There you go.
Easy. Alan.
So most important, Alan. Okay, so introduce this Alan, Nathaniel.
I don't actually remember your last name.
Grant.
Yeah, you're Grant. Yeah, for the purposes of this show.
Alan Grant.
You had a similar hat, too. That's
yeah.
a coincidence.
I forgot what you do for your job.
He measures.
He
I
measures
haven't-
things.
I haven't seen you in like 6 months.
I don't really know you, to be fair. I think that goes both ways.
Greg's like, yeah, introduce this guy. I'm like, I haven't seen him in over a year, like almost
Yeah.
a year.
There's
Alan,
been
you
an
got to
absence,
sit
yeah.
up to your mic. You got to talk into
You gotta
it.
talk
like,
into your mic.
always
Republican
yelling.
speech. Do the thing.
If you really want to make Greg angry, you get really close.
Actually, even closer. There's only one.
Okay,
hand's length,
there's
probably.
just a very this is why the
I didn't
headphones
wanna do
sometimes
this.
help.
Yeah, the hats. It's tricky. We need in-ear monitors.
Well, what is the solution to wearing cool hats and also having
In-ear
studio
monitors,
headphones?
like they have on bands, like they have like earplug monitors.
Oh,
That's good.
Okay, I think the hat looks better like that, honestly.
Are we live?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, of course we're live.
Of course we're- oh yeah, we've done that before.
Are we rolling?
We are on, guys. We have struggled to introduce Alan, so
Alan, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit? Give us a little down low.
Caw-caw. You couldn't hear me earlier, and now I have headphones on. You guys can hear me?
Well, you should be able to hear yourself. So
Yeah.
if you can't hear
So
yourself,
I can hear me?
Maybe
Can
like
you
a
can hear me. If you can hear you, we can hear.
I don't know how the
maybe a
technical
smidge
aspect
closer.
works.
You can hear. You can
You. Lean
hear.
in a little bit. Lean into it a little
Oh,
bit.
you guys are into it.
Oh,
yeah, I
get
see
it.
it.
Yeah,
now.
go
Okay.
in. You can't. You almost can't get too close.
Yeah, that's see,
Now I
That's
can
not
take these
true.
back off?
That's not
Yeah.
true. You can't get
No,
too
it's
close.
true.
it's just for you to realize that you need to be closer, Alan. That's mainly the point.
And also, you're not hearing the amazing soundbite that Greg is playing constantly.
yeah, like
Yeah.
when I messed up and realized that I didn't get the Alan clip, I played.
He's not wearing that.
He's not wearing the headphones again. You missed it.
That's why I did it out loud so you would know.
Okay. Anyways, okay, so I'll do it.
I'm gonna take my
so
headphones
this,
off
I
too, 'cause they
measure
basically
stuff.
don't work.
I measure
this is
stuff.
Alan.
Greg hasn't fixed my headphones, so.
This is Alan. He's our guest host today, and he picked a pretty awesome movie. But first, we'll get to know Alan a little bit. Alan, tell us just how long you've been here in Charlotte and what kind of movies you like.
About a year and a half. And
Okay.
I like the movies. You know, I don't get into the horror so much these days.
You have a pretty wide range, though, no, of movies you like? Because
No.
this whole thing started because me and you talked about Dune, and I'm like, hey, very grounded, very good conversation. And I'm like, hey, you want to be on the show? And he goes, Rustler's Rhapsody. That's what we're watching.
Deep cut.
And I'm like, oh, okay.
Well, I kept
You're like,
thinking,
yeah, I know
You
Rustler.
know,
Rhapsody.
Citizen Kane. You know, let's get profound. Let's out, and then, or Dune. You know, and then no, I had to roll it back.
It's because you saw our Con Air episode. And it just changed. He's like, oh, anything is allowed.
He said, "Oh, the bar is really low." Okay.
No, that's exactly how that
Exactly
went.
how it went.
Yeah. So I was thinking obscure, but not. Was thinking obscure,
There you go.
but not unwatchable either.
Okay, so
And a movie that wasn't 12 hours long, which is nice.
That is a
We
nice
watched
change of
long
pace.
it's
ones.
quite reassuring.
And Genesis is never going to be on the list. Terminator Genesis. That was just
That was a joke?
yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay. Because I was like, that movie was. Now, granted, Dark Fate was worse, and I think arguably Salvation was worse, but that movie was not good.
Is that one of the more recent Terminators?
Yeah, it was
I
the
haven't watched
second
any
most
of
recent
those.
one. It was not as bad as Dark Fate. Dark Fate was just a spit in the face of everything that Terminator was. Genesis was just a bad movie.
I couldn't finish it.
Yeah,
I
it was-
started and I
it
was like,
wasn't-
well, they're hitting all the nostalgia, but that's all it had. And then it was
And
just
also,
a
their Sarah
immediate
Connor
departure.
was like a 10-year-old child.
Is that, yeah,
Origin
see, I didn't
story.
make
She's
that
this
far, I
tiny
think.
person. Like, what the heck? You picked the smallest human being you could find. She's like John Connor, or not John Connor. Whoever the male lead was in that movie was like twice as tall as she was.
Isn't he the guy
and they're
that-
supposed to be a romance, and I'm like, no, stop it. This doesn't look right.
Genesis, was that the one where like there's so many? Which one is that?
That's the one.
You
Okay,
gotta
I'm
help
going to
me.
spoil it. That's the
Okay.
one where John Connor becomes a Terminator and comes back and tries to kill everyone.
Oh gosh.
And I swear it's played by a guy who's not Quentin Tarantino.
yes,
but he
Jason-
looks
Jason
like Quentin
Clark.
Tarantino.
Yes.
He was
Okay.
in Oppenheimer,
Okay.
actually.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
He's not Quentin Tarantino, but he
Yes.
looks like Quentin
He does
Tarantino
look
to
like
me.
I know exactly. So that's the one where the Captain Boomerang plays the main character.
Yeah.
That's how you know you're going
Was,
downhill.
was it,
Go,
was it
Captain
Amelia
Boomerang.
Clark? Was it Amelia Clark? Was the
Amelia Clark is in it.
Is
yeah.
the girl
yeah,
Sarah
she's,
Connor.
she's tiny.
She was old.
She's just really
Old
attractive.
enough.
Tiny human being.
Here we go.
She's hot.
Greg's gonna go.
Okay.
There we
okay.
go.
No, all right,
And
never
he's got it. He
mind.
can't
Let's
help
get back
himself.
into
Greg,
Rustler's
we're just
Rhapsody.
going back to our wish fulfillment casting of Beauty and the Beast.
Oh
Greg's
my-
just like,
Would she have been better as Beauty?
I'm not going to answer this stupid question.
Trap. Set the trap. He didn't fall for it this time.
you know
Oh
who would have
my
been a great
gosh.
beauty? Marilyn Monroe. I almost said Marilyn Manson by accident.
That would have been an interesting movie.
Marilyn Manson.
Marilyn Manson might have been better than Emma Watson.
Oh my
no,
gosh,
even I
dude.
wouldn't say
Clip it.
that.
Clip it and post it.
Oh man.
Anyways.
Okay, so we didn't watch any of those movies this week.
We watched
This week
Rustler's Rhapsody.
we watched a movie called Rustler's Rhapsody.
So how did you find this movie?
Yeah, that's what I'm really curious about because
So I grew up with it. I'm severely biased because it was in my cradle. Like,
Okay.
Oh,
so,
okay, yeah.
so I've watched it my whole life. I could hundreds of times.
Sentimental to you.
crazy
Yeah.
that you've
so
watched.
I can't. I'm not. This isn't a clean.
Did you
slate
watch
for
it in
me. That's-
theaters, or like did you had the VHS and so you just watched it over and over again, or was
Yeah,
it on
just
TV?
burned up the tape. Yeah, hard.
Beautiful.
So I'm always curious, from those who are unaffiliated,
Right.
Is
Is it actually a good
without
movie?
any background at all, not even so much of a trailer. I guess for some of you at least.
I enjoyed it. I had no idea what to expect.
So
I enjoyed it.
So yeah, I think it actually got better the longer I let it sit because it's a pretty clever comedy. Like I guess it's a comedy, right? Is it a comedy?
Yeah, it gotta be.
It's a
Yeah,
comedy.
No, it's
right?
100%. It's here. If you didn't watch it, it's not streaming anywhere. But it's only an hour and 20 minutes. I had
You
to
didn't
pay
watch it.
$4
Screw
to watch
you.
it on YouTube. No. But it's not streaming anywhere. So you'll either have to watch it specially, as in by not paying for it. Maybe use your VPN. I'm not advocating that.
Oh, are we that type of podcast?
Wink. Hey, look. Okay,
We're a
I'm-
pro-pirating podcast.
I didn't
of
say that.
movies.
Yar.
I did find a
I'm-
website that streams it on the semi-legal. You didn't have to jump through any crazy
Semi-legal.
hoops or
Yeah.
like any kind of
Yeah,
spam.
so you can
You
find
just,
stuff like
so
that. But my
it is
opinion
out
is, if
there,
you make
yeah.
it difficult for me to get it, I'm justified in finding a way to get it.
Oh,
I think we all are. Yeah.
But so it's like an hour and 20 minutes. But really, what it is it's a meta comedy about westerns.
Yeah, it's
It's
very
a western
self-aware
about
humor.
westerns, and westerns were for a long time what superhero movies are today, and around about that 70s 80s was when what we're seeing fatigue with Marvel, which I think has more to do with just bad writing, but the market gets oversaturated and people latch on to a different big thing, which I'm suspecting will be video games.
Video game adaptations.
Video adaptations with the
That's not a
Super
bad
Mario
call.
Brothers
Yeah.
movie and
Sonic.
Fallout TV and Sonic doing well. So, but market gets oversaturated, and people basically stop watching them, and that was around about 70s, 80s for westerns.
And when they had a long haul.
Yeah,
Hollywood
they
did
were-
that and Swords and Sandals, and that's
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
Like,
And they reference that in the movie because during their opening narration, they're talking about the his name is Rex O'Hurlehern.
O'Hurleham.
O'Hurlehern. It's like clearly a jokey name.
Yeah.
But he's the
singing
singing
cowboy.
cowboy. But it's like they made 52 films and they all happen the same way. And that's like kind of the point of the film is I don't want to get into that yet. But it was like a meta commentary about westerns at the point where westerns have kind of died out.
When did the Western genre start? Because I read
Early.
30s.
Yeah, real early.
I read like
one
it
of
was,
the
a,
first.
it was like a
It
30s,
was one of the
40s
first things because
commentary.
if you think about it, the whole Wild West stuff was like late 1800s,
Right.
and so it's still kind of fresh in people's minds. Like there would have been people who had lived through that, but also it was long enough ago for it to start to get mythicized.
Yep.
So it's like that. That's kind of like World War II was in the late 90s, where you have people who lived through it, but it's passed far enough out of memory that most people, were born after it.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put
So
it.
it's
a
become
mythology about it. Yeah.
It's had time for mythology to be built up, but you still have connections to it.
Makes sense.
And so westerns were huge for a long time, especially with John Wayne and Clint Eastwood. Although they managed to make westerns that were successful after that.
Hey, real quick, this is a good litmus test because there's only two kinds of people when it comes to this Western stuff, and people go to the grave for this is like Ford and Chevy, or hands up, like spiders and snakes. Very few people are afraid of both or neither. Most people choose one or the other. Like snakes, for me, I can't handle snakes. They go right up my spine. I can't even just visually. I seize up. Snakes.
Snakes,
spiders?
snakes.
And spiders, you're cool.
Yeah, don't care.
There's a point to this.
I mean, I'm
I see
kind
where
of
you're
cool with
going.
either one.
I'm fine with
They don't bug me too
snakes
much.
and really not cool with spiders at all.
Yeah.
Totally
I
fine
find that
with
interesting. And this is another one of them things. Eastwood versus the Duke. Most people have a hard stance on which of them that they care
I've
about.
seen more Clint Eastwood movies.
definitely-
Now, admittedly, all the Clint Eastwood movies I watched were when he was really old. So I don't think I've ever
true.
actually sat down. There's a big catalog of older movies that I want to sit down and watch. I've never watched anything with John Wayne in it, so I couldn't say whether I like him or not. I've watched a lot of people pretending to be John Wayne on Whose Line Is It Anyway, but I don't think that counts. I've seen Clint Eastwood in like Gran Torino, and he was amazing in that.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's indicative of him in like Good, Bad, and the Ugly.
I'm
which
the
I haven't
exact
Okay,
same stance.
all right.
I think I don't think I've seen a single John Wayne movie.
Now, Patrick Wayne was in this movie as the other good guy? Is he John Wayne's son?
That's one of his sons. Yeah.
Okay, I made that connection. I was like, I wonder if he's
Yeah.
related to.
That's who he
And-
played.
And how
the
about
other
that
good
as
guy.
a villain?
yeah,
Okay.
Plot twist.
as a,
But spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Well, before we get too far
Yeah.
into it,
Let's-
Alan, you've watched this movie over 100 times.
times.
So how about you give the people just a brief synopsis? Again, this is not going into the details of all the scenes,
man.
just like an overview. This is what happens, and then we can start talking about it.
So our hero, our very clearly defined hero, our archetype of a hero, right? For that time anyway, because that bears some
Sure.
mention.
right, the
because
movie was what 82, 87?
80s-ish,
Yeah,
early
early
80s, I think
80s.
early to mid 80s, something like that. So that the idea of a archetypal good guy at that time has changed since, and we'll get into that because I understand that your comment section is kind of benign, and and we're gonna I'm here, and this is on you. This isn't my fault if any weird stuff comes out of my mouth and sets your comment section alight.
That's why he didn't tell us what his last name was.
Benign.
Sexuality
Let it
being
loose.
a big part of this.
Let it
Anyway,
loose.
He's the good guy, and he follows a very near boring set of guidelines, and he's just the same guy in all these towns, and through experience of being this quintessential good guy of his time. You know, he goes in. He's done this so many times, untold dozens of times, of saving the town the same way, and all the towns happen to be the same, more or less, and with all the same usual Western tropes, just like the opening narration, more or less. You know, there's an outline for how this always goes. and he's got it down. He knows the general future because of experience, and so he runs in just town to town on this, this cycle, I guess, of all Western towns that he visits and saves. So he rounds up the good guys who are usually reluctant to take a stand against the bad guy, he says, who is usually rich for some reason. And then he wins the day, he fights the good fight, he kisses the girls, and then he rides off into the sunset and rinse and repeat. That's his
whole life.
That's his thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's I mean that really is the movie, and then you just get to observe that. But I guess the
There's some
end,
departures.
yeah, there's a
the humorous kind of interesting part is that you're just experiencing one of these things where he's entering into it like you just explained, where he's
Right.
like, I've done this a million times, and everybody's sitting there like, wait, how do you know that all these things are going to happen? And he's like, all of the stereotypes are real. This is always going to happen.
Yeah.
This is always going to happen.
And that's why they open the movie with, it's like black and white 4:3, and it's this was the old Rex O'Hurlihan movie. They did 52. They always start the same way with a stagecoach driving away from the bad guys, and he chases them down.
He's got the reins in his
Yeah.
teeth, shooting the guns out like one at a time.
The horse trick stuff was fantastic. They had a really well trained horse. There was
Yeah,
a lot of
they
there's
did.
a whole dressage part.
Yeah.
And the bad guys are just clapping.
They're all just sitting there staring at him, and he just keeps performing. I guess like that part was so
Andy
funny.
Griffith is the main.
Yeah, Andy Griffith
Yeah.
is the main antagonist.
Right, and a lot of people, I'm told, didn't know how to process that
Because he's
time.
like
But
he's
he's like-
the good guy. He's
And-
like
and just
America's
pop
dad.
culture.
Yeah,
Exactly.
And the
Yeah.
funny
Yeah.
thing
Yeah.
is, he still like acts kind of like a nice, like, oh,
Yeah.
gee whiz.
Yeah.
Gee whiz.
Gee whiz.
At the very end, he's like kneading his pistol, his revolver in his hand. I can't help but think that I had some part to play in all this. would a very sincere sorry, mean anything?
the moment that had me burst out laughing and realize that I enjoyed this movie was let me go back to so it's in 4:3 and then the narrator says what would I wonder what a movie like this old Western movie would look like today, and then the screen like shakes and expands to the full color, and then he starts messing up. And
Well, the stagecoach stops
stagecoach
for one
stops.
thing, and they're like,
it's
"What are we
funny,
doing?"
If you look, you can see the stagecoach driver is dead, and his body's just like hanging off to the side.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, it's just like hanging off the side the whole time.
I've seen it 300 times. I never. There's things I'm missing.
See something new every
because I
time.
didn't,
But he
I'm
walks into
inoculated.
he walks to the bar, and he sits down. And he's like, "This is one of the tough bars." Yep. He's like, "I'll have a glass of milk." Bartender stares at him.
warm milk. Yeah.
Sarsaparilla. Bartender stares at him. Is this one of them tough bars? Yep. Then I'll have a gin with a human hair in it.
Warm
I'll have a
gin.
large glass of warm gin with a human hair in it, and he just goes coming right up.
Coming right up.
You guys ever have gin, warm or otherwise?
I like gin in
Not
like gimlets,
warm,
but
probably.
I might have
No.
known.
Maybe it's better with the human hair.
You
in
gotta
it.
have, well,
Yeah, I
okay,
don't know.
so I don't want to get into this, but there are gin is a multivariate thing. If you don't like juniper, there are gins that don't have juniper.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if you don't
Science
like
corner.
that junipery kind of piney taste,
Yeah.
there are gins that don't have that.
Yeah, it tastes like cologne. And not the
I
good kind.
like
Nathaniel Levinson.
That's what I was hoping you'd do.
Teach me, doctor.
Yeah, he's hitting the sound
Officially
effects.
doctor too.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, do we
Congratulations.
want to talk about?
Yeah, let's address
why you're
it.
you're in a robe
well,
right now?
I mean, so I think last time we mentioned I passed my thesis defense. I was wearing my monocle and my top hat, which I wore to my graduation. But I officially graduated. I've got my honors cord. I've got my colors.
Way to go,
My
Dr.
doctorate, the
Levinson.
3 patches. Apparently, how you know it's a doctorate. Apparently, I didn't know this until I showed up at graduation and saw other people. You can get like a 6-sided hat, which looks much more like a beret and is way cooler. So next year,
How do
for
you get that?
graduation-
Just by choice?
Yeah, you just choose that one. I
dang.
didn't see that as an option, so I'm
Right.
going to get one for next year. So,
What a weird thing we do, where it's like, hey, you've achieved a
Well,
certain
it's
amount of
funny 'cause
education.
'cause our
Go
commence-
walk around looking like this.
well,
I'm
our
like, okay.
commencement booklet actually had like a little history of why did we wear the robes
Yeah,
and why did
I
we wear
would
the thing.
love
It's
to know.
because it was like probably originated in Oxford and Cambridge in England, where it gets really cold, and so they wore the robes to stay warm, and the hoods were to stay warm, and then they just became a tradition.
What's the hat?
The
What is
US
that?
is like, hey, that's
the
cute.
mortarboard.
Yeah.
You got me. All I know is that the tassel's on the right, and then when you graduate, you flip it to the left. And it's a big
I
It goes
know
back
that.
to the Masons, and they used to double as a trowel.
Are you being serious?
No.
He got me. He got me.
Yeah,
He
they
got
didn't
me.
say anything on the mortarboard. Just like with the hood. So the damn it, the graduate, the robes are different for different levels of degrees. Like the 3 patches thing is for doctorus, and then the hood represents the degree you got. This dark blue is for EDD, and then the other side is the colors of the school you got it from.
That's legit.
Interesting.
And the honors cord, I don't remember what it's for. I think it's for a GPA thing or just for the program I was in.
Flex.
But it's funny because like the people who have been there for they have like 17 cords, like 4 medals. I'm like, damn,
Right, you trying too
they've
hard.
been in education for way too long.
You join the real world.
Jeez.
But yeah, I had severe regrets of not realizing that there was a better hat that I could have had.
That
But
would be a
it was-
regret.
it was good.
Can
It
I
was
ask you a
fun.
question?
Go for
Why
it.
is it called Rustler's Rhapsody? Someone want to walk me through that?
I thought that same thing. Maybe now that we have Alan here, we can ask him.
Oh,
Alan,
man, come on. I saw this when I was 5.
Do you know?
I haven't been thinking that. No.
Well,
I'm inoculated
So no one
to such
knows.
questions.
Interesting.
It's the name of the fake movie, the fake O'Hurlihan movie, like his 52nd or 53rd
Well, what's a
movie.
Rhapsody?
That's what
A
I. That's what I'm
A
trying to get
Rhapsody is like,
at. Bohemian Rhapsody.
yeah. Well, there's a musical term, but Rhapsody is like it's similar
Like a
to
sonnet?
like being enraptured by something.
You think?
Yeah.
He's spitballing.
an enthusiastic expression of strong emotion, often in an artistic format such as music, poetry, or any form of art.
Yeah.
Now, what does rustlers mean?
Well, cattle rustling.
so
People who steal cattle.
why does Nathaniel know all the answers?
Or just
The,
branding.
Because I know
whole
things,
podcast
Greg.
is science. Is the
Did you
science
never
time.
watch Home on the Range, the animated movie where the 3 cows take down the cattle rustlers?
Of course, I haven't.
You haven't? It's
course I
great.
have
You should
not.
watch that.
I was
There's a
pro-
guy who rustles cattle by yodeling.
Did you ever watch
great
Barnyard, the Pixar or the Disney movie? No.
I don't think so.
That's not a real movie.
Home on the Range
Yeah,
is good.
it is, dude.
I
Barnyard.
swear, I think Roseanne Barr plays the voice of the main cow.
Oh, yeah, let me put that right at the top of my watch
No,
list.
it's legitimately great. And there's
So I'm assuming the name of the movie is a kind of play at the idea that this is
I think
kind of like
it's-
a meta western.
yeah, I think it's supposed to be intentionally like, oh, it sounds westerny, but it doesn't actually mean anything. I think that's the point. Is it's a meaningless title.
So okay. So when I was watching this,
Because interestingly, like, and they make they because again, it's a meta commentary. So they say this because the guy who's narrating, which Peter, there's a town drunk who ends up being the sidekick. He is narrating occasionally, and when they introduce Colonel Ticonderoga, which is Andy Griffith, and they're like, he had 1,000 head of cattle, which were for some reason always heard but never seen. And every single scene that is at Conderoga's, you can hear mooing.
Yeah.
Just constant mooing. You don't see a single cow.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the Rustler's Rhapsody title is just it's intentionally just absurd. It means nothing, and that's the point.
So did you guys? I'm gonna ask you guys because I already told Alan that I didn't get this the first time through, but I got it the second time. Did you guys understand the potatoes?
Oh, the roots.
The roots.
The roots.
No,
Never get 'em
not
high.
at all. No, I actually did not at all.
I did not get so like it was only on my second viewing that I realized that they were like that was like
They're like
that was like their
hallucinogens.
version of it was like taking shrooms. Like they'd all eat the roots and they're like
It was one of Pat Wayne's indictments, inviting near minors and introducing them to in the presence of narcotics, he said, talking about these special roots. And then there's a moment where the Peter says, well, I guess, what are these, these just, roots. And then he's like looking it over like, oh, I guess I'm going to become the town root junkie.
Yeah, yeah.
But the opening scene, he's like sitting there by his fire and he's starting to play the guitar and he takes a bite of the root and then like the music all starts kicking up and he's like
Roots kicking in.
Yeah. Audible hallucination, full on. Yeah.
he's having hallucinations and he's like hearing the mountains like sing to him.
And he's supposed to be the good guy. Right? Yeah.
Is that like a Western trope?
No, well,
Like
not really. I think
drugs?
I think
guess.
well, no, I
Trying
think
to
in
find a
that
better way to
case,
phrase that.
if you look, like he's got his little carriage, and it's got like 7 guitars and 19 of the same hat. And there's a scene where there's a lot of stuff that they don't point out. Like there's one time where him and Peter are just sitting around the fire, and he's trying on different hats, and they're all the same hat. He's just trying on different ones, finding one he's like, and they're the same hat. And it's a commentary on he's done this so many times that it's just monotonous, and so the root for him is, he's got nothing else to do.
That's a reach. It
sad.
could be. It
That's
could be.
sad.
Yeah.
I think that's what it
maybe.
is.
It could also
having
just be.
seen it one time, I think I'm an expert on this.
It could just be plain silly.
It could be, but that is certainly possible. It is a comedy, so sometimes it could just, sometimes a root is just a root, as Sigmund Freud.
Isn't that a
famously
sad
said.
life he's living then? If he's
Yeah.
just monotonous and
Yeah,
does
Seems
that's
the
like
the-
same
that's
they
the
thing?
played
whole
on that
point.
a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
His life is very predictable. That's
Poor
why
guy.
they're like, you can see the future. He's like, not really. I've just done this so many times. I know what's gonna happen. Like
In
they're
general.
gonna go when they're meeting with the railroad guys, and Peter's narration is like the railroad guys wore those old leather dust jackets,
Dusters, yeah.
even when it was 104 in the shade,
In the
because it looks so
shade,
cool.
They had better background music than us.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's like the Groundhog Day of westerns.
yeah.
That's
Just
what
relives his
I
life.
thought that it started to resemble a little bit with how much confidence he had.
Yeah,
And, like,
yeah.
So the first scene, he walks into this bar and he has that interaction where he's like, "Give me some milk," and then they all just stare at him. And he's like, "Is this one of those tough guy bars?" He's like, "Give me a tall glass of warm gin with a human hair in it," and then these guys barge in, and they're just like they're mean for no reason. They're just like, "Hey, where are the goat herders or whatever?"
I smell sheep.
Yeah, the sheep herders, and then they just shoot them. Like the guys just shoot the sheep herder
I'm
guy
not
that
wearing a
stands
gun.
up. I am not wearing a gun.
Speaking of gun rights, we're gonna get into that.
yeah,
We got some heavy topics coming up.
That's all right there, fellas.
So anyways, these guys come in, and then he instantly, almost like boringly, he's like, "You guys gotta stop this," or whatever he says. And then what is he's like, "I'm gonna shoot you each in the hand if you pull your guns." And they're just sitting there like, what the heck? And then he does that exact thing. But then he shoots the first guy in the hand, and then his buddies shoot that guy in the back.
Well,
what was that scene about?
No, it's because they're idiots. They're just dumb. So he's standing in front of them, and he says, "Shoot them!" So they pull their guns out and just shoot. But he's standing in front of them, so they shoot him in the back.
Meanwhile, the good, our protagonist, he's already,
Yeah.
he's arrested his pistols,
And
he
never
knows
draws
exactly
first.
that,
Right.
they're about to gun down their boss.
Yeah.
He knows it's about to happen.
Yeah, he knows exactly what's
And
going
then
on.
later on, when he gets encircled, the ambush, right? He got the drop on us. He's somewhere out in the dark.
It plays
Then he
that
comes
dramatic
back.
music and
Yeah,
they shuffle
yeah,
around.
yeah,
It's
right,
like,
yeah.
you're
You're making a big mistake.
making a
fellas.
mistake.
Yeah.
You're all gonna end up shooting each other. And then it plays the dramatic music and they all shuffle back.
Yeah.
Well, it's after that first bar scene that we get introduced to, I guess, the main protagonist or antagonist, and his daughter, and that weird scene where they bring the dead body into his
Put him on the
family
sofa.
couch.
What do you do with the dead body?
they-
They bury him.
like what?
Gee whiz.
Is he gay? Like,
I think that
is
was.
he
I
gay?
think that was
Who,
the
the
implication.
Colonel?
That,
yeah,
because he's talking about Blackie. He's like, Blackie knew how to feel.
I knew
how
a
to
man
touch.
who could
Oh, that's
touch.
right.
And then
Yeah,
the
yeah.
daughter comes in and says the exact same
Yeah,
thing. Like
yeah.
she's crying. She's like,
Oh,
he knew how to touch
my
and how to feel.
God.
Oh my God. So I think Blackie was playing both sides.
But did that ever play into the rest of the story?
Not really.
Not really.
Well,
right?
there's another
Well,
moment where
yeah.
he's real pensive about
Yeah.
something. He's deep in thought, and then the fireplace is going off to the side, and he just throw another faggot on the fire.
Yeah.
And one of his cronies is, what? A log. Throw another log on the fire. That was, I think, more than just a little subtle
Yeah.
dig there.
I think it was intentional.
And then there's another time.
Well,
Again,
yeah.
real big on the subtlety.
they knock on the door, right? They knock on the door, and he's like,
My
"Who
man.
is it?"
Yeah.
And then they're like, "It's us." And he's like, I'll be right there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was the not so subtext there.
And then all that stuff, which was repeat, it was common, to be a good guy, to be the good guy, you have to be not just a heterosexual, but a
Confident.
He's like
heterosexual.
So again, later on in the by the way, chat says just got here and we're talking about guns. This is gonna be great.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what the people want.
So the movie unfolds as he is constantly foiling the bad guys because he knows what's going to happen because he's done all of it before. And he ends up, the town drunk Peter wants to be his sidekick. And, well, they put up a red flag really early for it that the sidekicks always die.
And he's reluctant to
Yeah,
take
he's
on
reluctant
another
to take a
side.
Like there's rules,
'cause he's
like in
saying-
horror
he's saying,
movies,
yeah,
that
yeah, it's
they're-
like in the bar,
yeah.
the prostitute who doesn't actually sleep with anyone, she just talks dirty.
Yeah.
She comes down and Peter's like explaining everything to him and explaining her and Rex just goes, but she has a heart of gold. And Peter says, "How did you know that?" I just know.
Believe me, Peter, I know.
I know. And so he's like, yeah, and this is the blacksmith, and he doesn't get mad unless someone burns his barn down, and he's naming all these things. And Peter's like, yeah, that's exactly the type of town we have.
The attractive
You ever-
but somehow asexual school mom.
But it's
Yeah.
like, what about that town drunk? It's like, nope, never seen a town drunk before because the town drunk always becomes the sidekick and the sidekick always dies. But eventually he warms to Peter and Peter becomes a sidekick, and they have this whole montage of him teaching him to shoot guns. And he's got these little wooden hands to practice shooting hands.
And they're like they're all
right,
like a foot away from the ground too. They're like little fingers. They just have a pointer finger, and he sticks them in like just a foot up from the ground, and then that's all he does to practice. He just shoots these wooden hands.
Like Batman, he doesn't kill anyone.
Yeah.
You know, he's
And he
so
doesn't draw
just.
first because he's the good guy.
He's so just. He doesn't kill. Yeah.
So what was the moment? And I guess I'll just to anybody. We can go one at a time. What was the moment that you laughed hardest in the movie, like when you were watching, or you thought was the funniest?
Don't say
whatever.
the credits.
So just a spoiler,
Break my heart.
as if anybody didn't.
The
think.
song that plays over the credits is pretty funny.
Yeah, that was my favorite part.
I'll slap you.
Boo! Liam
Come
sucks.
on, guys.
Liam sucks.
Greg was about to say something.
It got me, especially because
mean
you know
to
how
me.
land prices are now. Like this is in 1980s, and I mentioned earlier, but there's a scene in the bar where the prostitute. What did she get a name?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Miss
she's a name.
Tracy.
Miss
Miss Tracy.
She has a name.
Miss Tracy comes.
God.
Does she have a name?
Miss Tracy
Nameless
comes
women
down
in this
with,
whole
with
movie.
a client, and the client's like, $616, and all you're gonna do is talk. He's like, yeah, and he's like, it's 1884. Land in California is going cheap. I can get an acre of land in Los Angeles for 50 cents. I can buy a steak dinner for a dime.
That part was good. What about you, Alan? What's your? I mean, you've been around this movie a lot. So, do you have a favorite moment? Do you have like a that's the funniest part? Has it changed for you over time?
I'm gonna have to think about it.
Yeah. Liam, do you have anything?
I'll say I didn't mind the intro to the town drunk. I liked Peter as a character.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think generally I enjoyed when he was on screen.
Yeah, there's
Okay.
some slapstick stuff there in the
Yeah.
beginning. Like,
That's
it is
my
all
type
so
of comedy.
violent. And he runs into the side of the building.
The best
where he
slapstick
runs over
moment
the-
is right at the end, where the guy's in the thing with the Gatling gun, and Peter snipes him from across the roof, and the guy dies, and he falls over the tarp and into the trench. He's like, I got him, and then he falls out of the window and does the exact same thing over the tarp into the water trough.
Just like you said, Rex.
So for me, there were two parts that made me laugh like pretty hard out loud, which was the one where he's trained. I guess it's the montage with him and Peter. Is that the sidekick's name? And he's like, I don't know, I'm a little nervous. He's like, come on, Peter, it's just water. And then it just zooms out as they jump, and they're jumping off a giant cliff. And like, it's a real stunt. Like, these are real human beings
That
just
would've hurt.
flying
Dude,
off the
diving.
side of a cliff. And you're like,
That was
in
high.
your
That
mind,
was up there.
in your mind, you're just going from like, okay, he's just like, it's water, let's jump in, it can't hurt. And then you realize they're jumping off a cliff.
That was pretty good.
It caught me off guard, and I started laughing.
Well, he was putting Peter through it, I think, trying to get him
Yeah.
to quit. You know,
Yeah.
he didn't want to side
Well-
quick. He took him on reluctantly to begin with.
yeah.
He knows from experience that they die because sidekicks.
Well,
the usual trope.
that's definitely like what that's probably the biggest through line in the whole movie is him coming to terms with letting Peter become the sidekick and him not dying.
Yeah.
Like
It's also
that-
the reason why he comes back and tries to fight the guys at the end, right? Because
Yeah.
they took Peter.
Yeah.
That's like his rationale.
Well,
for
right,
it.
that's right.
and then you
Yeah.
think that you think that he's dead. That one part where they come and shoot him,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Ah, you fools!" There's like a armor
I
under.
got like, hey, drunk, and the guy's holding guns, and they just like turn aside to two guys with shotguns and just blast him.
But also the other part that made me laugh was when Peter is like, he's running back. Oh, what's happening in the town that he's like getting people together. He's like, hey, stop, whatever. What did he run back into the town to do?
Is it when they're ousting? It's when our good guy Rex backs down from the gunfight. He chickens out on account of
Okay.
his
Oh
lacking
yeah.
confidence.
And they're all
Right.
Yeah. And they all start they're like
free thinker,
coward,
Yeah.
libertine,
Yeah.
free thinker.
One of the kids then yells out "homo." Did you guys catch that?
I didn't hear that one.
Homo.
Well, that's the part where Peter comes and he's like, no, stop this, and he grabs the first guy, and the first guy turns around and he's huge. And
No, not you.
He's like, not you. Then he goes to this little girl and he's like, hey, stop this. And she just slaps him through a window.
Yeah, just
And
punches
it all
him
of a
back
sudden
through.
turns like into slow motion. And so she just, boom, and just goes through the window. And I was dying because I'm just like, what is this? It's such a brilliant thing to do. Like, he runs over to the little person and for no reason, like, you've never seen this girl you never see
Typical
her.
woke Hollywood
It just
strong
turns
female
around and
characters.
just slaps him through a window.
Just turns and blah!
It was
good.
amazing.
That was good.
Those 2 points for me. I mean, I laughed quite a few parts. But those two had me laughing quite a bit. That was my peak
when they stop the train and they all get out, like, you got the rifles with scopes on them? Yeah.
Telescopic
And
sights, yeah.
Telescopic sights. It was very funny that there were a lot of characters that would just start over-explaining things. Like the dumb characters.
Oh yeah.
Would just start
They're
going on
otherwise
and on.
fully
about this,
incompetent, but somehow
Webster's dictionary
Yeah, yeah,
definition
yeah.
of things.
Yeah.
Like shooting at him, just sitting there. And he's like, why can't you shoot him? Well, the wind, and he's 100 yards away, and this, that, the other thing.
Right. Yeah, it was pretty thorough.
Yeah. But anyways, the movie culminates, like, it escalates and escalates until the German guy, the German railroad guy, and Andy Griffith are
colonel. The two colonels.
The two,
Right,
right,
yeah.
they're both colonels. The two colonels are like,
So you got the spaghetti western
Yeah.
colonel, and then you got the traditional
Yeah.
made in the States
Exactly.
western colonel. Now they've teamed up.
yeah. And they realize that we are always losing because we're the bad guys.
Yeah.
We're supposed to lose. We literally cannot, like, fate will not let us win. So how do we fix this? So they get another good guy to come in. What was his name? Bob. Bob
better
Barker.
guy.
Bob, yeah.
Bob Barber, not Bob Barker.
Bob
Right.
Barker.
Bob Barker comes in. The prices.
Not bad Bob the barber.
Not brutal Bob,
yeah,
Bob
yeah,
the Butcher
yeah.
Barker.
Right,
Barber. But I keep saying Bob Barker. Damn it. Bob Barber comes in, and it's Patrick Wayne. And he comes in, and he's also a good guy. And when they see him, when they walk into the bar, he's got a jug of milk on the table with a glass of milk.
Also notice the way he's dressed.
Yep.
He's not in the understated colors, like you said, the browns, the
Yep.
the such.
The
and
browns,
such.
the such and
He's got
such.
another fancy horse
Yep.
with the zebra print.
Yep.
Like
Yeah,
lining
it's
on
got the
his
exact
saddle.
zebra print lining saddle.
And that's the first thing you notice. And
Yeah.
yeah, they're both
They're
both
both like
to the nines.
super frilly, like looking.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
it's one of the
Frou-frou
first
looking
things
guys.
that's introduced with
Where in the hell
what's
did
his-
you get
yeah.
that shirt?
Like he when he walks into the bar. What's the main character's name? I was about to
Rex.
say Rustler.
Rex.
Okay, it's Rex.
Rustler.
I know. Anyway,
It
so,
was his Rhapsody.
So Rex walks into this bar and he's got like this floral white
And
shirt
like an
on,
ascot or something.
Yeah, and it's all of these just really tough looking Western guys. They're all just staring
And
at
here's
him.
this rhinestone cowboy.
Yeah, and they're like, "Where in the hell?" What does he say? He's like, "Are you one of them guys?"
You
that
strike
fa-
me as one of them guys that's attracted to other men.
yeah, you strike me as one of them guys that's attracted to other men. and anyway, so then when he meets this other good guy, he's dressed just like him. He's got the milk there, and they're just kind of having this battle of who's better, like who did nicer things, and Rex keeps getting kind of baited into doing these, where he's like ah damn it or something, and then all of a
can't
sudden
even cuss right.
he's like there's like a bunch of kids
He's like,
around.
I don't cuss. Damn, hell, turd, doo doo.
Yeah,
and then you hear
yeah.
giggling, and there's like kids under the door, and Bob Barber's like, go on back to school now.
he's like, go thank your parents or something. He's like, never say those words again.
Listen to your teachers and study
Yeah.
real hard.
And so he's like, dang it. He's losing at this who's a better guy battle. But then they also look at each other and they realize, well, neither of them is going to draw first because that's just one of the rules.
Yeah, so Bob Barber's like, I'll just count down from 5.
Yeah, and then he just leaves, right? I mean,
Yeah.
like,
Well,
there's not a confrontation in that
To
part.
talk
Not
about
then.
what really happens there, he's counting down from 5, and then the agreement is that's when they're going to finally
Right.
draw on each other, like you said, because one, they're both good dudes. And the good guy would never draw first. And then, 5, and then they'd already talked about some of the rules, like you can't beat me, Bob. You work for the colonels, and that makes me the most good for starters, right?
Yeah,
Like, you just
they're like, well, what happens when two good guys fight? Well, the gooder good guy
right,
wins,
right.
obviously.
Yeah, that's the way I reckon it. They said, yeah. And so they're going through all this criteria. Bob, being a prior lawyer, he's really putting this dude to task about some really minuscule things that ultimately don't play into it. One of the criteria we've already kind of loosely
It's
covered.
like you had a prostitute and a drunk
Right.
and the colonel's daughter all of your wagon at the same time.
Yeah.
You don't know he's a
wasn't like
lawyer at that point, do
No,
you?
he says it. He says
He says that right off the bat.
He says, well,
I thought that was like the
because Rex says,
punchline for being
you sound pretty
actually a
loyal.
bad
He's
guy.
like, I used to be.
It used to be, yeah. Yeah, that's what he
Oh,
says,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was the punchline
No, very
to
good.
like. I thought that was like a
It
play
ends
on
up being a
lawyers
punchline.
being bad guys.
Well, that
Just
ends
like,
up
well, I
being
am
a
a
punchline
lawyer.
later.
Okay.
Yeah. Either way, so the countdown's
Yeah.
happening, and then they just covered one of the criteria is that you got to be not just a heterosexual,
But a confident
heterosexual.
Well,
And that's when there's some pause
yeah,
there
it is
because
like-
Rex is like, I thought it was
Confident?
just heterosexual. No, it's confident because everyone knows the rules, right? on what it is to be a good guy.
And that's where, like, when I was hearing it for the first time, I was like, oh, it just means confident and then comma and a heterosexual. Not like you have to be a confident heterosexual. And that's actually what
Yeah.
Rex is struggling with. And he's
Yep.
like, well, I'm a heterosexual, but
Because courage is a virtue, so maybe it was a dig on cowardice, right? Like you got to be confident.
Right.
No, it's confident in your
And he's
heterosexuality.
not confident because he only kisses, right? He only
Exactly.
kisses
So
the
he's
woman.
untested.
Well,
He doesn't
it's,
know
It's
Yeah.
funny
exactly
too
what he is.
because they even play on that idea of that trope of the good guy gets to sleep with the girl, but then he's like, it's 1884. You got to date and date and date and date.
Sometimes
Like it's not
marry.
actually like in
Yeah,
1884. It wouldn't have actually been socially appropriate for them to do that. So it's actually really good. Again, it's a meta commentary on westerns.
Yeah.
And on Western tropes.
Yeah.
But he's like, they're on that showdown. He's like, I'm going to shoot you in the hands. I wish you shoot me in
Yeah,
the heart.
right.
You know I can't do that.
Yeah.
I'm a good guy.
And that's where he's really starting to sweat.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, this guy's pretty good.
Yeah, he's-
Maybe
he's
I
a
am
good guy,
faltering.
yeah.
Maybe I'm
Yeah.
not the best. He's never. It's also this is totally off the rails, off script for him. He's never encountered anything like this up to this point. It's always been, the
So by the numbers.
Stuff
by
he's
the
seen
numbers bad
before,
guy.
yeah.
Yeah, right. And now there's this thing shaking it up.
they've never
So-
hired a
So he
good.
backs down for the first
Yeah.
time ever, and that's when the mob shows up.
Immediately
to shake
turns
him
on
out,
him
yeah.
and boos him out of
Right.
liberty, free thinker.
Oh man, and then it comes to a head with him coming back to the.
Well, because they send goons to the camp to shoot Peter.
Well, they do shoot Peter.
They do shoot- well,
and you think
yeah.
he's dead, and you realize he was.
They didn't
wearing-
want to. They wanted to tie up loose ends. They
Right.
didn't want to have to risk the colonels. That is, they didn't have to want to risk a repeat of this really good dude come and foil their future
Yeah.
plans. So we got to finish it now. But you can't send in the good guy because he's a good guy. He would never go in after someone. So they got to bait him out, and that's what happens. So they wax his partner. And then he comes out of hiding. And by this point, this is what I really like this part of the flick because now he's not. It's almost like he's thrown the care to the wind, like good or bad. I don't.
Right.
I'm just doing this because it's the right thing, kind of thing. And I'm going to right the wrongs. And then he goes to the sheep herders. This is an interesting thing that he's got to round up the pacifists of the movie, the poor good guys, right? The sheep herders from the very beginning that don't own guns.
They smell bad.
And, you got
No,
this-
they do own guns. They're just like
Some of them do.
the
That's
people.
right.
The
yeah,
people
yeah.
who are fighting should fight it out, and we stay out of it.
Right. Yeah, that's their mantra or whatever.
They
their-
all just
their thing.
die. They
Let
all
the man who
go
start the
down.
wars
Yeah.
fight the wars. Is their
And he's like,
thing,
I will
so-
shoot your wife right now.
Yeah, he ain't playing at this point.
Yeah.
Good or bad, he's over it. You guys, get your gun, follow me, or I'm going to shoot your wife in the shoulder. And then she screams.
Yeah. He's like, I will shoot your wife in the shoulder. I was like, it's so great.
And they follow him. So,
yeah.
So all these look
The
like
Amish
Polish
looking-
Jews or something.
yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
Amish types.
yeah.
Yeah, they round up the good guys.
And
they
they
round
get
up
in
their
this
rifles and they're
big,
about
big
to duke it up.
Yeah,
line.
they line up
all
and
just
then
kill each
they
other.
all line up behind Rex, and then the Bob Barber is there, and all the
Ticonderogans.
the tough guys,
The henchmen, yeah, the
henchmen,
gang, yeah.
line up behind him, and then the snipe happens. So they have a guy with a Gatling gun, and it turns out Peter's alive because they gave him bulletproof vest. Not sure how they did that. It looked like a mattress cover.
Yeah, it was kind of cheap.
It was
yeah.
like foil.
What the hell is
I was
it?
going to
It's
ask
like
what a
little corroded
bulletproof vest
tin,
looked like
yeah,
back then.
yeah.
I don't know when Kevlar was invented, but they had you could wear like
They had things that
metal
would
plate.
limit.
You could wear a metal plate.
Bullets,
yeah,
Bullets weren't-
yeah.
Bullet velocity was not what it was now.
Right.
So, actually, knights would have done pretty well against musket fire.
And shotguns.
Science.
Anyways, what were we talking about? Right. And then the shootouts, like
It's science time.
Rex is like, now wait a minute, and then they all just open fire, and everybody dies except for Bob Barber and the two
colonels.
colonels,
Yeah.
and Rex and Peter, because Peter's getting shot a bunch, but he's still getting
Yeah,
his
yeah, he's just
bulletproof
kinda
jacket.
like- he's so
just like
casual about it.
he's just
Yeah,
standing
yeah.
there, just getting taking bullet fire.
Right.
And so they go to do a draw, and they count down from 5, and they draw their first pistol and shoot them out of each other's hands, and then they draw their second pistol, and Bob shoots Rex in the shoulder, and he's like, "You're not a good guy," and Bob just goes, "I'm a lawyer." And like shoots him in the face.
Which he was real sideways about, because Pete comes up after, consoling his Rex, or good guy. He's down on the ground after this little shootout. Dude is fully dispatched, having taken a round to the face. And then, Rex, shot him in the head. How do you feel about that? And then he's beside himself. He's like, I missed his hand. So we didn't even mean to remove, lobotomize his foe.
And the German guy, the railroad colonel, is like, how am I supposed to build my railroad? You just killed all my men. I'm out of here.
Yeah. Auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen.
And then they throw him a party, don't they?
Yeah, then it was party time.
Yeah, and then
quick switch.
And then Andy Griffith remembers that he's Andy Griffith and is like,
Andy Griffith's
I really feel like I played some part in this.
Yeah.
It's like, this might have been partly my fault.
Did you guys notice that his daughter is Adrian from the Rocky movie?
Is she?
Really?
Yeah.
I thought I recognized her, but I couldn't place her.
Huh.
And then the prostitute, I should remember her name.
Tracy. Miss Tracy.
Miss Tracy.
I have to say, I do appreciate where, what was the general's daughter's name?
I'm worthless.
I can't remember her name either. Andy Griffith's daughter, we're going to call Andrea Griffith.
You're digging ourselves.
Andrea Griffith is she's like all confident, like, I can ride this horse, Daddy, like this horse called Wildfire.
And she's
and
getting shrugged by
she's
it.
like, all
I'm
right.
the only one
She's
who
like,
can
I'm the
ride
only one who
you.
can ride him. And then the horse just starts riding away, just dragging her on a foot for like an entire day.
It's like the day ends and what's his name? Rex finally stops the horse and she's just been drugged behind it the whole time. And then that's the scene where then she's in the camp and she's got like no clothes on and then Miss Tracy comes,
shows up.
and then he's like, oh my gosh, he's like, what a situation.
Like, whose cloak is that? It's mine. And puts it on. It's ridiculous, like Cruella de Vil thing with like crow feathers.
Like a lady of the night.
Yeah, Lady of the Night.
And then
Yeah.
in comes Peter, our newly mentioned town drunk, and he's this is where Rex points out you know what my outfit is, like it's a sidekick's outfit. Yeah, it looks nice, nice outfit. So's yours.
Yeah, it's like he turns Peter down. And Peter's like, okay, he takes off his pants, and Rex is like, what are you doing? Like, I got my drunk outfit in my bag.
My drunk suit in the bag. Yeah.
But that scene, then there's a scene later on though that's funny when Peter has already become like whatever his sidekick, and then he's just there with the girls like at camp one time eating the roots, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "I got lonely." He's like, "It's lonely being." He's like, "Yeah, but you can't do this." Like,
You don't know what lonely is.
Yeah, you don't know what lonely is. Oh my gosh. Oh man.
It's mostly well received, it sounds.
I didn't like it.
Yeah. Liam doesn't like good movies. So
It's not my style of comedy.
Liam doesn't like old movies.
Let's do a quick. Let's do a quick. These are my favorite
Okay.
comedies ever. Okay, I got 3. Dumb and Dumber.
all disqualified immediately. You don't.
Well, hold on, let me finish.
Liam Maxwell's hot takes.
Dumb and Dumber. Austin Powers. Super bad.
Wow.
Yeah.
Those are top 3.
Top 3.
You see
Easily
you see
top
this,
3.
this
No
is,
sense
So
of
they
humor.
could
This
not
is-
be
they're
objectively
mainstream.
could
They're just
not.
mainstream.
No, they're not mainstream.
all three of those
Dumb
are
and Dumber's
Dumber's
pretty
not
named-
mainstream.
Yes, it absolutely
There's-
is.
No. I wouldn't say it's necessarily
100%.
mainstream. I say
It's
most people know what it
old now.
is, but
That's
it's not
because
mainstream.
that's just because it's older. But back in the day, it was absolutely mainstream.
I don't view really as
everybody in the
mainstream.
world, whether they like it or not, you say Dumb and Dumber, they know what that
Well,
is.
why is that a
You say
bad-
Austin
why is that a
Powers,
bad
they-
thing?
Because
It's
it's a
not.
bad movie.
I didn't say it's a bad thing at all.
Nothing to do with its popularity.
I
That
said
movie's terrible.
I just think that it's more of what I said before you got here, where I was
Superbad
like,
was
Liam
good.
likes watching movies for the novelty. Like I think you're like,
Insult. It's got to be an insult.
it's not an
isn't it?
insult. I don't
Sounds
think.
awful.
Okay,
It's like Liam can't really understand the movies, so he more likes like the idea of them.
let's
Liam's brain is too small to appreciate the comedy in this movie. It's
let's
not an
no
insult.
nuance
It's just a
going
fact.
on in Liam's
let's put it this way.
Cognitive ability, really.
Let's put it this way. Let's put it this way.
It's a tenuous grasp on reality.
Maybe we should feed him a root and then he'll understand.
You just don't get it.
Just don't get it. It's not an insult. It's just a fact.
Let's put it this way though. Okay, name a movie you really like that's not highly rated. That's that's objectively a bad movie.
Zone of Interest.
No way.
Did you see
hated
that?
movie
No,
so
they
much. That movie's the worst movie I've ever seen in my life.
Because I actually want to see that.
It's horrible. Don't watch it.
Don't waste your time.
Do not watch
Do you
that movie.
agree?
It's terrible.
Is it because it only needed to be about 15 minutes?
It's so
It only needed to be
pretentious, dude.
0 minutes, and then
It's
it would have
so
been
pretentious.
good. Yeah, we'll get to that after I hear Liam.
So I want to think on it. Is this comedy genre or just in general?
anything.
Keep talking.
This is my point. See, this is my point. This is my point.
But there's a reason they're mainstream movies. It's because they are good.
Not necessarily.
Not
I don't know.
necessarily.
Sometimes
But
it's
there's
just,
the ones- but
you know
you're
what
saying-
made $1 billion
you're
and
saying-
keep making them?
What?
Transformers.
Okay, I know. Okay, that's not a blanket statement for everything.
It's
but
kind of a blanket
my
statement
favorite
for
movies
everything.
ever are well known because of how phenomenal of movies they are. Like, there's a reason why they're so well known.
Sure, and I'm not necessarily saying your favorite movies ever, but I'm just saying in general, you're not going to like movies just that. This is gonna sound mean.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
okay.
This is,
We
Alan,
still
this is
love
episode 20. I already know what's coming. so.
Emma Watson,
Go ahead.
misogynistic Emma Watson.
Oh
hating.
my gosh.
Greg has this opinion.
How
let's-
are you
let's
not
hear
agreeing
Greg's
with me?
thought. Take
I
it.
agree with you. I agree with you. I'm just
I'm sure everyone's
pandering.
pining to hear Greg's take on this. Go ahead, buddy.
I was just saying, but you love movies. That's the whole point. You love movies. You love them in a different way than I love movies. And then
I
Alan
think we
loves
can
movies.
agree on that. I just don't think. I think it's just not my genre of comedy. Like, I would put, and you guys can disagree with me, but like, I see this in the same realm as like Mel Brooks movies.
You don't like Mel Brooks movies? We're
No,
not friends anymore.
I don't.
You're,
I don't like Mel Brooks
you're done.
movies.
You're done. Don't talk
I
to me.
don't like. I'll look
anti-Semite.
at it and I'll be like,
Yeah, that's what it
all
comes
right.
down to.
I'll never rewatch a Mel Brooks movie.
You didn't
ever.
think Robin Hood Men in Tights was great?
I don't think I've ever seen it. And,
Okay,
and I don't
so-
think I'd like it. That's why I haven't
Don't
seen it.
even
so I'm not
talk to
gonna
me.
like it.
Spaceballs?
Fine. Spaceballs is so fine. It's
So you don't like parody.
Airplane.
You don't like parody. You don't like. You
is
didn't like
fine.
Airplane, dude.
It's
Airplane's
fine,
hysterical.
dude.
Okay,
It's like,
so he doesn't
okay.
like actual clever comedies. Hence, Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the point I was actually trying to make.
But
with the movies that I said I love.
So in comedy, you want to disengage your
I
brain,
want-
not engage your brain.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I
What was
think
the
we're saying the same
Ghostbusters
thing here.
They did
2016.
Great movie.
Well, hold up. They made like 8 of them recently.
Frozen Empire, the most recent one.
No, I'm talking about the all-female.
Yeah, it's
2016.
2016.
That's
Great.
2016.
That's my
The
favorite
movie was
movie.
he's joking.
We
that
have
movie
a-
was almost unwatchably bad.
Were you gonna say that you think I would enjoy that?
I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out what's going on here because I don't.
Even he didn't like that movie.
Alan,
That
come on,
movie
man.
had no comedy in it.
Liam
There was
is
no.
so
There were no jokes in
I'm
that
not
movie.
that. Come on. You could not have.
Well, never
genuinely
really-
could not have
never
said a
really
worse
knows.
I
statement.
despise Dumb and Dumber, but Dumb and Dumber had jokes.
Yeah.
Ghostbusters 2016 did not have jokes.
Well, let me bring Alan
Yeah.
up to speed on like so Ghostbusters 2016 has existed as like as, I don't know what would you call it in our
It's a
realm.
meme.
Yeah, it's a meme.
it's
Like
completely
we
meme.
talk about it as
Oh, yeah.
it has a history with our group here. It's actually where we first met Jakob,
Our producer.
our producer Jakob.
Yeah. He funds this whole thing.
And he sometimes he sends in really mean voice messages to us, and he's just become this
and writes
character.
us mean letters. He funds the podcast.
Yeah,
so
he-
we
like,
have
do
to
whatever
play
he
it
says.
every time. Like, we have to
So
play his
Jakob
voice
is the
messages.
representation of people that would like Ghostbusters 2016, and we all exist as people that
He's an amalgam
clearly
of
think
all
that movie is
people that-
horrible, one of the worst movies ever. But we do
He
we
is all the
we
Sith.
do joke about Liam liking that movie all the time, even though he doesn't. So
No,
it was
Liam
ironic.
does
that
not
you-
actually like
It's
Ghostbusters
ironic that you
2016.
brought that up because you
That's
didn't
pretty
even know.
funny,
Alan thinks I'm a loser now.
Well,
But I can't get with Mel Brooks.
Oh.
So I
Interesting.
do like Spaceballs, and I liked the others when I was 13, and I don't usually hold maturity as at a real premium.
I certainly don't.
Dumb and Dumber.
Keeps me young.
Kind of the whole point. of the movie,
Look,
actually.
just look at his hat.
Something. Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm not wearing this because I wear this. Well, I actually do wear this hat.
I was
Okay,
gonna
hold
say,
on a second.
Alan
But,
actually just looks like he just walks around in this outfit
Yeah.
right here. You
Yeah,
look
I can
like
see it.
you look like Dotson from you guys remember? Oh man, you remember Jurassic Park where he goes to meet with the fat
Dotson,
guy?
Dotson's
He's
here.
like
See,
I
nobody
told you
cares.
not to use my name. He's like Dotson, we got Dotson here. You see, nobody cares. And he's wearing like exactly what you're wearing with glasses. Anyways, continue. Sorry.
a flowery shirt.
He's
Yeah,
wearing a
kinda.
button-up shirt with. They're in Costa Rica, so
Yeah,
he's
he's wearing,
he's
like,
got
a
like a
Hawaiian
nice
shirt
top
and-
hat.
So this
No.
is from Colombia.
Is that-
this hat.
is that-
It actually has a black brim that I have removed for this idiocy that I'm taking part of right now.
idiocy.
It was,
Is
it was between
Mel,
that.
Mel
or
Brooks is
this.
Blazing Saddles, right?
Yep, Blazing Saddles.
America.
Speaking of that,
How I was kind of explain to me
Saddles,
the
Young
difference between the two, because I viewed Blazing Saddles and Rustler's Rhapsody. I'm like, oh, it's probably the same movie.
No, Blazing Saddles. So again, this is like a meta. Well, Mel Brooks movies are kind of meta as
Yeah,
well.
Spaceballs is.
Yeah, they make. Well, that's more parody.
Okay. It's,
But
yeah.
yeah, so meta commentary would be like, oh, I'm talking about the genre or breaking the fourth wall, which they do. You know, they're like it's 1884, whereas Spaceballs is, hey, remember Star Wars?
Star Wars.
This is that.
Okay,
we're joking.
yeah, there's a difference.
and a touch of Star Trek.
Yeah,
Beam Me Up, for example.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And there's
Men
there's
in
a line
Tights.
between meta. Meta humor is kind of a broad category.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say Mel Brooks is more in the parody camp.
Okay.
Like a lot of his stuff is parodying.
Piracy.
It's pirating. He's a pirate. Mel Brooks is a Jewish pirate.
Can't get
I
I
Say
cannot
that? No,
get
you can probably
behind
say
I
that.
that
can
right
say
now. You
that.
can say that right now. Yeah,
I
yeah.
can say that. I'm
Are you
Jewish.
Jewish? Okay. Yeah, I don't.
We can.
I still don't get
You
how that
boys
works.
can't
but
say
I
anything.
can't say that. I can't say that.
Mouth shut.
I don't know if we can say anything these days.
True.
Speaking of toxic masculinity, I wanted to-
Let's circle back. Let's circle back.
Got him.
Greg.
So guns.
yeah. So I wanted to talk about queers, gays, homosexuals,
we're canceled.
fellers who are attracted to other men. I think we covered some of that. We can leave it there if you want. It's okay. Gun rights. You know, there was that poor sheep herder. You know, he opens
Yeah.
up like,
Yep.
I'm not wearing a gun. He barely even got out the next line before he was gunned down.
I noticed that Rex didn't do anything until after 2 or 3 people had been shot in the bar.
Well, he didn't do anything until they threatened him, right?
Yeah.
Or was he the
No, it wasn't until they threatened Miss Tracy.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. That's enough of that kind of talk.
Yeah.
You're just a prostitute.
I saw somewhere that
Yeah, that's the
With the
phrase.
wherewithal,
With the
the
wherewithal,
financial
the
wherewithal.
financial-
you guys know what like the what the Razzies are.
Yeah.
So I don't think it was a Razzie, but she got an award for like worst actor.
Who did?
She was
Worst
nominated.
actress.
She was
She was nominated.
in that flick. Yeah.
Yeah. The Miss
The
Tracy.
prostitute. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
She was not bringing her A game.
So the
Poor
only
guy.
other place that I've seen her is, have you guys seen the movie Far and Away?
No.
Yeah. I happen to like that.
It's a great movie.
Yeah, is
I show that to people who need a movie that they probably haven't seen. That I'm like, this is probably one you haven't seen.
That was
that's actually
Tom
really
Cruise when he was still in the outer circle
Tom,
of Scientology.
young Tom Cruise. He's a stud.
Young Tom Cruise is great.
He's an Irish box, like he's a fighter. He's like an Irish guy, and it's about him coming to
I'll
the
watch it
States.
right now.
The movie's amazing. The movie's awesome.
And she's in it.
Nicole
And
Kidman?
she plays Nicole Kidman's mom in that movie, and she's like this super uptight woman. And she's
I'll be danged.
she's like there's this scene where this like, you know, they're part of this like really high class Irish family, and she's the mother, and they have like this assistant to the father who, you know, is really after Nicole Kidman, the daughter. And so he comes into like the mother and all the girls that are sitting there like talking, and he's like, we'll be all right, lady. He just saved them from something, and he's like, go back to your sinful card playing, and they're like, oh. I thought that was the funniest line. I don't know why. As a kid, I thought that was hilarious. But that movie's great. That's the only other place I remember her. And then obviously Adrian from freaking Rocky movies is the other girl. So I was like, man, these girls are stunning. You know, back in the day.
Right.
Does that age range? Does that age range work with her and Nicole Kidman? I guess it does.
I mean, yeah.
Nicole Kidman's pretty old.
In far and
Now,
away,
I
Nicole
guess, but-
Kidman and Tom Cruise are young. They're young bucks. Like
Yeah,
they're
okay.
little babies.
I
And so
don't
this-
know if you would call a woman a buck.
Young
that means
doe.
a male.
Young doe.
Young
call her.
doe.
Yeah.
Doe, a deer. That's
Science
another
time
A
with Liam.
female deer.
deer.
It's in the song.
Buck. Clearly a male deer.
See, the tassel the tassel is there to teach men what having long hair is like. Such a hassle.
Yeah, don't do it.
It's science time.
You guys know about the Bieber
Nathaniel
haircut?
Levinson.
That lopsided
Yeah, I used to
HT
have it.
thing?
I used to have
despise
it.
it.
That ruined an entire generation of. They got like nearsightedness
No
in
way.
one eye.
Because
No
it was
kidding.
like covering their
Yeah.
one eye.
Yeah, yeah.
I believe
No,
that.
that fully
believe
screwed
that.
up.
Yeah,
For
I
life.
believe it. I believe
A
it.
generation of kids who were doing that haircut.
I believe it.
That's amazing. So,
Thanks, Beebs.
Google it.
Thanks, J Bibbs.
That is
Jamie,
unbelievable.
Google
It
it.
actually makes sense.
man.
Yeah, Jamie, pull that up.
What were we talking about before we went on this tangent?
rights.
Gun rights?
Yeah.
Comedy.
well,
Comical gun rights.
Comedy.
yeah.
Mel Brooks. You were saying why you don't like Mel Brooks, something about maturity.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I don't usually hold at a premium. It just got to a point where what used to be giving me the real giggles was, I mean, there's a few funny moments in Men in Tights, but for the most part, that was it just doesn't land anymore.
Yeah.
And it's not like I don't want it to, because I rewatched it thinking, oh, this is gonna be fun. And I
Which movie did you?
Men in Tights in particular.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen History of the World Part 1 in a long time. Maybe that holds up. I don't know. I do happen to like most of Spaceballs, but it's
See, I
dried
think
up a little bit for
Spaceballs
me.
is a little more they both have definite like crass moments, and I'm not usually a huge fan of those. But I just think that Carrie Ellis and Dave Chappelle, like their acting in them,
Oh,
just,
yeah.
they just
Right.
sell me on all of it.
yeah.
Even though there's a lot of
Did you say Dave Chappelle?
yeah, he's in Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Oh, I think you were
right.
talking
I
about
thought you were talking
Spaceballs.
about Spaceballs.
No,
Yeah.
he's not in Spaceballs.
Okay.
No, I'm tracking.
No, Spaceballs to me is the more puerile. They're both pretty puerile, and I totally get that. I do. So even though I enjoy Spaceballs, that I will say that one scene in Spaceballs where they go to the video store and that's like one of the most brilliant cinematic moments ever.
Kind of is.
So there are still I'll still
That's
watch
really well
Spaceballs.
executed. Yeah.
But there are definitely, I will say, a lot of Mel Brooks movies have jokes that haven't aged well just because I'm older. I don't find that stuff as funny anymore.
Yeah, I think for intellectuals
I'll
like
agree
me
with
and Alan, it is hard
Dumb
to
and
get
Dumber.
behind.
It's no
Stop
Dumb and
talking.
Dumber. It's
to
no
get
Dumb and Dumber.
behind.
Yeah.
Nothing,
you put Dumb
nothing
and
is.
Dumber and
Nothing is, and
Superbad.
nothing will
But what
be.
is? But what is?
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Austin
I have yet
Powers
to find it.
You like Austin Powers, but you don't like stuff like Robin Hood Men in Tights. They're both pure
I told you I've
parody.
never seen it.
Oh, you need to watch it.
Well, it's funny because like we'd probably agree that comedy out of all the genres is the most subjective, right?
I would
because,
say
because
so.
if it's making you laugh, then you like it, and it doesn't really matter why. Like the movie-ness itself doesn't have
Bunch
to
of
be.
different types of
I
comedy.
Yeah.
honestly think it speaks like what you find funny is informative of you as a person. Not way like I can judge you, but like what you find funny, I think does speak to does speak to you
Yeah,
as a person.
humor is such a huge part of life.
And,
that,
and,
yeah, I
and it's
think I can get behind
there's
that.
there's a very very broad spectrum of what constitutes a joke.
Well, I think it's also comes into play when like I'm a reviews guy. That doesn't shock Greg.
He's a sheep.
I'm not a sheep,
He's
but
a
I'll
sheep.
look at it. Right? I'll look at the reviews. I'll be like for example, if I'm going to see a movie in theaters, I will check out the reviews. I'm not going to make my decision purely based on that, but I'll check it out.
I need to know what they're saying.
Yeah,
I'm not
I
going to
don't
look at
think
the
that's a
stars.
terrible.
It'll
Yeah,
depend
yeah.
I
on
don't
what
think
they're
any of this
saying.
is a terrible. Like I think
But
that's good.
what I will say is comedies I can't really trust. There's no good comedies anymore anyway. But like comedies I don't really trust reviews because like some of the funniest movies I've ever seen in my life, and I'm like, I can't imagine anyone not liking that.
And
They have,
comedies-
like 40% around tomatoes.
Comedy's changed a lot. It's always
Oh, yeah.
migrating all over the place.
Yeah.
What society finds funny at any given
Yeah.
time. All that
Well,
stuff.
society's
with,
garbage though. So.
Well, that's why there's no funny movies anymore
Well,
because
anything
society
with Ben
restricts it.
Stiller and that uncomfortable, awkward humor. That
I've
was
never
and-
see that's the thing I've never liked, which is why I don't like The Office.
Are you saying
can't-
you like it
yeah.
or you don't like
no,
it?
that was just
Like, give me a movie as an example.
anything with Ben
Fine.
Stiller. in
Zoolander?
like the 90s.
Zoolander's pretty good.
Like-
I thought Zoolander was hilarious.
How-
Okay.
What's the one when Harry met Sally?
I'm thinking mostly
When
like.
Harry Met Sally's a
No,
rom-com.
that's not it. No, it's Along Came Polly. Sorry, similar song, similar movie.
So I think that there can be a lot of funny
Meet the
moments
Parents.
in comedy movies. Yeah,
okay,
that's a big
I
one.
like
then.
Meet the Parents.
I think there can be a lot of, but for me, what keeps a comedy around? So like I could watch a comedy movie, laugh a lot, and then it'll just fade away into nothing, and I'll be like, okay, it doesn't really matter anymore. But the ones to me that stick around that I'm like, that is just an S tier comedy movie in my book are ones that I find to have a really clever plot where I'm just like, that's just brilliant to make a movie about that, which is why. Despite there being a million movies like Zoolander that had the same cast and everything, I thought that was brilliant because I'm like, it's just so goofy to have a movie about two male models and about like a this political plot to assassinate somebody, and they use male models because they're so clueless and they're brainwashing these two or this main one, and like the fact that it's Ben Stiller and Owen Wilson is just. I mean, there's so many epic moments in that, like the walk off where they play "Beat It" by whatever. It's
Turn
like
left.
It's
It's one of those movies
for aunts?
It's one of those movies
Center
that's
for S.
it's so dumb, but it does it really well. And I usually, a lot of times, that incredibly dumb, like mentally brain damaged character does not land for me.
Like Dumb and Dumber.
Well, like Kevin in Ghostbusters 2016.
Oh my gosh, so bad.
Usually,
that's the worst possible example.
or literally everything in Dumb and Dumber. But sometimes it's pulled. It's that one comes down to execution, and then I think a lot of the comedy comes down to the execution.
yeah, of course.
And if the execution is good, a lot of things that I wouldn't normally find funny, like the awkward humor and things like that, can sometimes, even though it's not usually what I enjoy, if it's executed well, it can come back. To me, what I enjoy in a comedy is something that I end up that a line or something that happens that'll come back into my head, that'll occupy my thoughts. Which is why I usually tend to go for comedies that are more in the wordplay, sort of thing. I'm not too proud to admit I love some good slapstick, some good physical comedy. I love like Sandra Bullock is brilliant in this category. If you like watch like Miss Congeniality or
Heat.
Pretty much anything, any comedy she's
The Heat's
in.
pretty good with Sandra
her
Bullock.
physical comedy
Hilarious.
and physical
You know what I'm talking
timing
about?
is
Did you say
brilliant.
Heat?
The Heat.
Oh,
Oh no, not Heat.
Those are not the same movie.
Me and Liam watched
What
Heat
a
last
knee
year.
slapper.
The is very important in that title. It is not Heat.
But I think comedy maybe again. I mean, I guess good acting is good acting, but it seems like, at least for me, with me, it's more about an actor. Like for me, what I find Bill Murray hilarious.
Yeah.
Most anything
You can
he's
follow
in
an actor.
is going to be one of my top comedy. Like The Man Who Knew Too Little is my number one comedy.
Well, that
ever.
movie is just objectively good.
Yeah,
Now,
and
could
it-
it have worked with someone other than Bill Murray? I don't think so.
Right, and this
But
is my
it's
point.
brilliantly
it's like,
written.
It's one. It's a brilliant premise. Well, here you have a really timid guy who thinks that he's in a play, but in reality, it's real life, and so he's just acting overly confident, and it's hysterical to see. And then two, you have Bill Murray executing that. So, how could you not? Like, it's perfect. Like,
Back
it's just
to
amazing. It's
Tropic Thunder with Ben Stiller.
Tropic Thunder.
Again, Ben
fantastic.
Stiller, but different than that other that
Definitely
queasy,
different,
like awkward
definitely
stuff
different.
that just
Yeah.
makes you
Tropic
uncomfortable.
Thunder
is
That was brilliant. It's
Yeah.
not always laugh
Tropic
out loud
Thunder.
funny, but that was really witty humor. I like
Tropic
that
Thunder
one.
is
A movie
yeah.
that could not in any way get people like mad about him. Like,
Well, even like Robert Downey Jr. has spoken out. He's like, "No, I don't regret making that movie."
who was it was Donald. It was Danny
Donald
Glover.
Trump.
Maybe it was like Danny Glover or no. It was Billy D. Williams. Billy D. Williams was giving an interview. I'm pretty sure it was Billy D. Williams was giving an interview with someone, and they asked him about Laurence Olivier. So Laurence Olivier famously had a movie where he was in blackface. And they asked Billy D. Williams about it because Billy D. Williams was friends with Laurence Olivier. He was like, so how did that make you feel? Like, obviously fishing for, he was racist, we
Right,
cancel.
right.
And Billy D. Williams was like, he was an actor. He was acting. Why are we mad about this? He was acting.
Nice.
We were friends. Like, we didn't care.
Yeah.
And that's the, to me, that's the line. It's
The
like,
cool side of the pillow.
yeah, it's
Billy D.
like
Williams.
this idea nowadays that
Can't get any cooler than
only
that,
a person
honestly.
who checks these identity boxes can play this particular role, and it's become prevalent in voice acting too, where it's like,
Yeah.
oh, you have an Asian
yeah.
character on screen, like that you've drawn as that looks kind of Asian. You have to have an Asian person voice them. You have a Jamaican character, they have to be voiced by an actual Jamaican. You have a gay character, they have to be voiced by someone who's trans, right?
Yeah, sure.
A straight character can be played. A straight white character can be voiced by anyone,
Mm-hmm.
right? But it's like, okay, either everyone needs to be voiced by someone who looks like them, which is absurd because you're an actor. The whole point is you're playing someone who you're not. It's so asinine. It's like you can look at the intention behind it and say, okay, did this person do blackface because they didn't want to hire a black actor? That's a problem, right? Or
The motive matters.
yeah,
Of course.
and like
Of course it
they're
does.
taking out all these sitcoms that have incidental blackface episodes. Community, they did one where Chang is dressed up in all. It's not even like black. It's like purple makeup. And it's like
That
I'm a
show
night
is-
elf.
that
and
show
then,
is
and then
amazing.
Laverne turns to so we're just gonna ignore this hate crime. Like they pointed out that it's not okay for him to be doing it, but like, oh, it might offend some sensibilities. Like they are actors, and they're making a point that it's not okay to do. Like
Well, it just says more about the people that are offended.
yeah, and the idea is that, and this is why comedy is dead, that you have to cater to the people who are the most controlling, who aren't going to buy it anyways, is just so silly. That's why the comics industry is completely tanked because they've gone and said, oh, we're going to cater to this very specific crowd who don't buy comics, and we're going to say if you don't like it, don't buy our comics. And so then what happens? Nobody buys your damn comics.
Duh.
And they're like, why is nobody buying our comics? The whole thing of like, what was it? Some movie came out. It was it Charlie's Angels? It wasn't Charlie's Angels. It was some movie that came out, and one of the actresses got on and was like, sorry, man, this movie isn't for you. And then later when the movie bombed, was like, why didn't the men show up to our movie? And like,
I think that's happened a few times.
it's happened
recently.
several times.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's okay to cater to a niche audience. It's okay to cater to a niche audience. Just understand that you're, artificially narrowing your scope. And that's what
By a lot when you
by a lot.
take out an entire
But also,
gender.
that's what those are the things that end up getting cult appeal and building a following is when you make something that's specific and targeted tends to be tighter and better produced. Versus if you try to just appeal to the broadest possible audience, you end up with the gray sludge that we have. That you end up with Transformers 17, Rise of the Beasts.
Let's go.
Which we still have. Technically, we need to watch to complete our Transformers watching.
You guys are gluttons.
Sludge.
For punishment, absolutely.
You have to come in on all these? Are you?
No, he's a coward.
Liam
pick
barely
my spots.
All right.
I pick my spots.
right.
He picks his shots.
When they're like, "Hey, we're gonna watch all the Transformers movies," I'm like, I got something that night.
Yeah.
And then if I
All
don't go to
that
the
night.
first
Yeah,
one,
yeah.
then they don't invite me to the next one.
But
So-
the
and
point is,
that's
if
the
you're
point,
willing,
right?
if you're willing to violate your artistic integrity to pursue a perceived crowd, then what you were working on probably wasn't worth it. Just gonna throw that out there. Now, it's okay to compromise and be like, okay, maybe we don't need this scene where the kid gets her head chopped off. Right?
Jesus.
Unless, you ever hear of a Serbian film?
No,
It's like this horribly violent, like super sexually violent film.
that's what it's called.
It's called a Serbian film because it's made by a Serbian guy.
Yeah.
And it's just like disgusting and brutal. And
Let's watch that one next.
the nation of Serbia was like, this doesn't represent us. And the filmmaker was like, yes, it does. And
I believe I speak for all of us.
yeah, the Serbian guy was like,
Right,
this is a metaphor.
Serbia?
The Serbian guy was like, the director was like, this is a metaphor for what's happening in my country. And the country of Serbia was like, no, it's not. We have nothing to do with this guy and his sick fantasies. But, he had a vision and he stuck with it, right? Now, it's a horrible vision.
And now you and five
a
people
nightmare
are all
vision,
about it. Yeah.
Or like Human Centipede, which somehow got 3 films, where it's just disgusting, horrible thing. But, you said, let's just take it to its maximum potential. And there's something not respectable, but something approaching admirable in that. Like saying, I had a vision and I followed through with it.
Sharknado.
Even if I'd be like, you should, Sharknado.
Passion project.
Or like The Room.
Well,
Stuff like that.
We discussed
stuff like I can't talk. Stuff like that gets made when people have a vision and are saying, "I'm willing to follow through." Like Tenet. Tenet was way too high concept. Nolan completely overreached.
I'm glad you
on
said that because I was about to pause you. Like, wait, what'd you think of that, Jazz?
No,
Like,
Nolan completely overreached on that.
Yeah.
But he took a risk, and then he
sure
pulled
did.
it back for Oppenheimer, and Oppenheimer was good. Too long, but great.
Yeah.
So it's part of it's the executives, part of it's to trying to cater to this really loud crowd of people who don't actually spend money. So why are you catering to them? But it's like, look, if you have an artistic vision, you need to pursue that vision. And if you do, you will end up with a better product than if you try to compromise to widen your audience.
What's that
arbitrarily?
It's a gaming.
Helldivers?
No. Yeah, I know that's in the news right now, but I'm talking about these guys don't make games. They're kind of like
Sweet Baby
consultants.
Inc.
Those guys. Yeah. Stuff like that. Like they've got all this capital, and if you want to get in with them to make your game, because you don't have the proper investments or your money.
The problem is because all these investing firms like BlackRock and all these other ones, they say you need to check these boxes or we won't give you your investment money.
Right.
So that is like you either got to play ball or you don't get this $30 million or whatever, however umpteen $1 million you need.
You get your money, you sell your soul, and
exactly.
you get this crap
and then,
title.
Yeah, you get this crap title. But then the thing is, like, you're not making money on this. So ultimately, I don't know how BlackRock keeps making money because everything they touch seems to turn into garbage. Like
that's how I feel about Hollywood in mass. Like, how are they still afloat?
They're not.
Like,
Disney's
when
lost billions.
I was going to say,
I
Disney's definitely tanking now.
Yeah.
They're feeling it.
But if we look at Barbie was very exclusive. Like so, and this is one of the interesting things about Marvel is trying to cater to a female audience that, let's be real, mostly does not. This is a broad generalization that boys like superheroes and girls, generally speaking, don't to the same extent.
They like dolls.
It's not even like like a let's be real. Like just statistically, guys are the ones going to superhero movies. Like they're the audience.
Even the Marvels, which was marketed for women, by women, for women, still had a majority male audience. The reason that movie bombed is because the women didn't show up because they just, generally speaking, again, broad strokes, don't care about superheroes. But Barbie, that made billions of dollars because it was marketed and very well done, I might say. Like, I watched it. It was a well-made movie. And I was like sitting there for a lot of it, I'm like,
It was something.
I was sitting there like, oh, this is not for me. And I think the America Ferrera speech at the end was one of the most toxic, heinous things. Like, the messaging in that movie is trash. But the set design, brilliant. Mm-hmm. The acting, very good. Ryan Gosling, fantastic.
Ryan Gosling rules.
He was fantastic.
I was into it for at least the first half of the flick, and then there was so many themes that were disconnected.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell what the point is. I still don't know what the point was. to
Yeah,
that-
the
that
point
Netflix.
is
'Cause we're
women
not
good,
girls.
men bad.
Have you watched it?
That
I
was
have
the
not
point.
watched
That
I've
was some of
I've
it.
actually
Look, 'cause
refused
it
to
got
watch
to the very
Yeah.
end. It looked like they were going
I'm
to
glad
do
you
a
did.
kind of coming together thing, like we can work this out sort of a deal. And then that opportunity was completely lost in the wash. And I don't know where it went. And then they started talking about something else that was completely
we could
unrelated.
definitely get. I'd love to have a conversation about Barbie.
Yeah.
But
We'll
it was
do it.
it was even though I'm like,
Would you?
man, this is they're saying some horrible thing. People are like cheering at this, like it's impossible to be a woman. Like women have existed for thousands of years. It's not harder now than it was in the 5 BC. Like stop it.
Greatest
As a
time in
man,
history
I'm
for
very
women
well versed
right
in
now.
these. The patriarchy has spoken. But you know people
all
are
of
cheering.
us.
People are cheering. I'm like, you're sitting in a movie theater being entertained. You don't have it as bad as you think you do.
Yeah. If you could see
But
this
the point
movie,
is,
you're doing
the
all
point
right.
is that
Like
movie
those
was
bumper
very
stickers.
well marketed, very well targeted, and it made $1 billion. Because guess what? It's not that women don't go to movies. Women go to movies that interest them. That's why rom-coms have statistically more women attending them than men. Not because there aren't men that enjoy rom-coms, not because there aren't rom-coms that are enjoyable for everyone. I like a good rom-com, right? But just like most romance novels, the target market is women. Just
Right,
like
that was a good one.
most
Romance
action adventure
novels,
stuff,
yeah.
the target market is men. It doesn't mean you can't have crossover enjoyment. It just means that you should know, like this whole Warhammer 40K thing. You guys heard about this?
Yeah.
Warhammer 40K is something that I struggle. I'm like on the verge of being interested, but it's just so complex and convoluted.
I think
I'm
we're
like,
too old.
I can't even get
It's
into
too
it.
late,
It's
yeah.
too. It's just so complex. But it's got some diehard fans who are really into this.
Henry Cavill,
very,
big fan.
Yeah, very
He's a big
like
fan.
grim, dark future where everyone's just awful.
No, it's
and-
mega intriguing.
Yeah,
It's just too late
yeah,
for me.
that's exactly how I feel about
Way
it. I'm like,
behind.
I'm intrigued by this, but I just can't get into it.
Yeah.
I tried watching some
Is
more
it a
videos, and
TV show?
it was like this
It's
guy
a
trying
lot
to.
of things.
No,
So,
it's,
so
originally it's like an RPG.
Warhammer is a tabletop like strategy game.
but
Originally.
it's
It's-
expanded to absolutely everything. But
It's like-
their audience
Yeah,
is like
it's a board game.
95+% male.
They made cinema
and they
out of it.
yeah. And they just announced the Games Workshop, who does the miniatures and updates the rule book, just said, oh, by the way, this thing that we've stated in the lore was always male because it was like these genetically modified freakish human monster things like are only male. Oh no, there've always been female ones, even though they're lying. And it's like, okay, your audience is like 95% male. It's okay to cater to them. It's okay for them to make everything super hyper masculine because the people who are buying your product want that.
Yeah.
So just give them that. And who cares if Sweet Baby Inc. is like, oh, there aren't enough trans hyper feminist blah blah blah. Like, so what? It's
And
not
these guys
for them.
wouldn't have been hard up on cash. I'm
Yeah.
sure they're pretty well established.
Yeah.
Game.
Yeah,
Games
but they've
Workshop
had
or
a
whatever.
ton of people cancel subscriptions because they're like, we don't like the direction you're going in.
I mean, it's called basic business.
Yeah,
It's just
basic
understanding
business.
your target
Understand
audience.
Your target audience, and that's the weird thing is because
advertising to them.
it's because the goal of the people who are making these decisions is not about money, even though their investors are like, where the hell's the money gone? Where's the money? We're a business. We have to make money. Now I'm very much free market capitalist. I disagree with the idea of investors and infinite growth. Like there's certain ideas that are like that's stupid and doesn't just ignores economics. But the point of a business is to provide a service and to be paid for it. Okay? And these people have come into these companies and they crept into these places and situated themselves and intentionally so, where they're like, I want to make my political statement or my philosophical statement or whatever because they find it to be a moral virtue to destroy these things that they see as inherently evil because it's the patriarchy, right?
Well, okay, so I'll bring this back to movies.
Yeah, bring it back to movies.
Okay, so
What do you guys think the over/under in years is until they make a Fortnite movie?
Oh,
It's gotta be soon.
It's got to be soon.
Right?
gotta
Isn't
be
it going to be
soon.
really soon?
I'm surprised it hasn't happened yet is
Let
that
me Google
somebody
it.
hasn't bought like a large plot of land and like recreated one of the maps from Fortnite and then just like had it as like an amusement park.
or a paintball.
Yeah, right. Like have
Yeah.
people be able to come and like experience.
Apparently,
like,
there
an
is
actual
already a
Fortnite.
Fortnite movie on
Dibs,
Amazon.
trademarked. I'm going to do that. I'm gonna quit my job.
Anyways, so on that thought that Nathaniel was poking at, I'll
The
bring
Fast and the Furious director
Bring-
wanted to make a Fortnite movie.
That would be.
Stop.
Shit.
We don't care about Fortnite anymore. Anyways, so on that thought,
You asked the question.
I that was Liam that asked the
Yeah,
question.
You asked the
Greg.
question.
Why would you
Greg.
bring that up?
Just anyways, so to bring this back to movies, I think we're seeing this a lot more in main movie characters, and I think it's what makes them disinteresting, in my opinion, and people that I don't necessarily want to like aspire to. Like there's not, and I think there's a big contrast in like the original Lord of the Rings and then the new Rings of Power TV show. I think is where I see this a lot.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Which is what you're talking about. Which is, I think people want to like if there's a group of people now that say, well, I want to get to this point because it's my dream, right? Like I want to become a doctor because it's my dream and it's my right to be a doctor. Instead of thinking like, okay, well, I'm good at this and I want to help people. Like that's the main, like I actually think that I can do better maybe than these other people. Or I want to lead because it's my right. Like I should be a leader. Like it's unfair that I'm not a leader. Instead of saying, I have all these really awesome ideas to lead. I think they would be helpful. Let's see if they work. And so I think the way that this is gone into movies is that you create characters like the original Lord of the Rings, where you have all these characters that are thrust into a situation they don't really want to be in, right? Like none of them are psyched about taking this ring to this place where they're probably going to die. They lose team members.
And we can't take the Eagles. We can't take the Eagles.
And
we got to walk.
The books explain why.
And so what you latch onto is the sacrifice in the characters and the nobility of them leaving what is comfortable to go and do their duty, right? Whereas now you get characters that are made that are going, I need to do this thing because I need to do it, right? And that's what you're supposed to get behind. And I'm like, well, I'm not that person. Like I don't have the characters in the Rings of Power are, there's like the new Hobbit type people. It's like Nori. Her whole thing is like, she's like, I just feel the need to help people. It's always been in me. I don't know why, but like I have to help him.
What's that Predator with the she-boss chick who's like the baddest Indian in the whole tribe, and she murders the new from Space Predator.
The new prey.
But that was her whole motivation was, I'm the best killer in the whole bunch, and I'm the guy, I'm the man.
Yeah, it's been a shift from victory and respect and nobility is earned, and now it's something that's owed, and it's a victimhood mentality, and it's very common because it's easy. It's very easy to say, well, the reason I don't succeed isn't because I'm flawed, isn't because I have issues putting in the work, or whatever it is.
Something's holding you
and
down.
it's not to say that there aren't external obstacles and that different people face varying levels of external obstacles. Everyone does. But again, I'm always so inspired when I watch the Paralympic swimmers. Again,
Nathaniel's a swimmer.
I'm a swimmer, by the way, so that's what I watch. I watch the swimming, and I'm just, I watch the normal swimming in the Olympics, which Summer Olympics coming up. I'm going to be watching the swimming and the diving. The diving I don't know as much about, but I'm just awed by how much they can do in 5 seconds, less than that before they hit the water. But I'm watching the swimmers and having whenever you have an in-depth knowledge of something, it's always fun to watch experts.
Of course.
And to be like, wow, that's the level that the human body is capable of. But I'm watching these Paralympic swimmers, and they're doing backstroke, and 3 out of the 5 guys have no arms.
Yeah.
And they literally, to do their start, they hop in the water, and their trainer has a cloth that they bite with their mouth and pull themselves up, and they're just kicking the whole time. And he busted out like it was like a 126 100-meter long course backstroke, which, to put that in perspective, when I was in shape, like 18, now admittedly I was not a backstroker, when I was in shape at 18, my 100-meter long course backstroke would have been like a 145.
Wow.
So this guy with no arms is smoking me in a sport that I was good at, right? And that's so inspiring that it's like, you want to talk about external obstacles?
Yeah.
The dude has no arms. Hello?
But the thing is, like, that's what movies are missing now, right? In a much more real term and sad term, it's what life, like is affecting us in the real world. But the way it's reflected in movies is that you get these characters that are so uninspiring that it's like you take Scar from The Lion King, and he's a villain, right? He's a villain, and the reason he's a villain is because he's sitting there going, it's so unfair, right? Like this whole system is unfair.
Life's not fair.
But the problem, right? Like the problem amongst all of that is that he really has no plans to increase the Pride Land at all. He doesn't have any idea on how to run things.
And completely ruins it.
He just thinks that it's not fair that he's not the one ruling. It has nothing to do with his skill in ruling at all. Now, if you took that character and he was like, oh my gosh, Mufasa, and Mufasa ran the Pride Lands and it looked like it does when Scar has it, and Scar is the one going, we need to change things, this is terrible. Maybe you have a character there, right? But in today's movies, you would make that same movie and Scar would be the hero, and he'd be sitting there going, hey, it doesn't matter if I have terrible plans. Like it's just about how this is an unfair system,
Well, no,
and that needs to be
we
the
remember
thing.
from Lion King 2019 that Scar was Mufasa was a conservationist. They had kill quotas, right? So they were like, okay, you can only kill one gazelle for September.
I forgot about that movie as I was watching it.
Right? It was
So I don't even remember that, but I believe
It
it.
was so forgettable.
I believe it.
So are we excited for the Mufasa prequel?
There's a Mufasa prequel.
I'm not
Is it
watching
animated?
The trailer.
animated?
I'm like, yeah,
Well,
no,
yes.
the, like 2019
Oh,
Lion
live
King.
action.
The hyper
it is
realistic
animated,
The
but
It's been ratioed to oblivion. Thank the Lord, people are rising up. It's,
I heard that they didn't watch our episode and they didn't do the Homeward Bound thing.
Nope.
So,
Oh my
huge mistake. But I'm willing to bet Scar is going to be very sympathetic in this movie.
well, but that's my whole thing.
Oh, they
Like,
love doing that.
like-
They take an otherwise evil villain, and now that's the good guy.
And it's one thing. It's okay to humanize your villains, because but the humanization of the villains should never be to the point of, well, I'm actually on the villain side on this.
Dig
It's
it.
like no. And I think there are a lot of really good stories where it juxtaposes the hero and the villain have basically the same arc,
Right.
but the hero chooses good and the villain chooses evil.
Right.
And that's the point. Like, they could have had the same path, but it's about the choices they made along the way. Their life circumstances were very similar, but the choices they made along the way are what makes the difference.
Yeah, it's like
But nowadays it's just like, oh, Cruella de Vil, her mom got eaten by Dalmatians, so she's a good guy now.
The Maleficent thing.
Maleficent thing was a little, but it's that was kind of where it started, in that vein of like, ooh,
Yeah.
what if the villain was
Right.
actually, and Wicked did it
Wicked.
too. Which
Wicked,
I
for
love
sure.
Wicked.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
Which
the
is
same
cool
idea,
in the
like,
beginning, but
yeah.
now it's
And now it's gone well, because it was originally like an interesting subversion of an old story where it was like, okay, what if Elphaba was actually the good guy and was just misunderstood because of all these other things, and that's interesting. Like they didn't make her. She wasn't actually a villain in that one. It's just that the circumstance cast her as a villain. But now we've gotten to no. These people are actually legitimately, like, the leading people are now just evil.
Well,
they're just evil, but we're supposed to root for them.
I also think you see it present itself in, like, maybe the villain will stay a villain, but they'll come to the hero and be like, well, you see, we're not so different. Like, we're doing, and it never hits me because I'm like, no, clearly you're not.
Even
have
in
you guys,
Spider-Man,
have you
the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man where Goblin has him, like, beats him up and is like, you and I were the same, and Spider-Man's like, no, we're really not.
But like that, see, that's how the movie should handle it. Whereas the new, I don't know if you guys have seen the new Batman.
I was just going to say
Batman.
that. Yeah, Vengeance. says dude. Yeah.
So in watching that movie, one, visually, audibly stunning movie. I actually thought, like, man, it really is a cool Batman movie.
I think I mostly liked
Yes,
It was
but
so long.
the story though,
not
and
good.
and especially how it comes to the head,
ending's
where you have the goon laying there, and Batman goes over top of him, and the goon goes, "I'm vengeance." And it's supposed to be this big moment, right?
No,
It's
you beat me
supposed
to it,
It's
yeah.
supposed
It's
to
funny.
be this big moment where Batman is, he's just like the bad guys, but the big problem is he's not. Like the only problem is the truth, right? That's the only thing you're missing is the fact
that gets in the way,
like, at the
yeah.
whole movie,
It's funny.
Batman has been doing Batman things. He's beating up the bad guys and he's saving the good guys. And all of a sudden, at the end movie, he's like, I realize that I've got to be hope, not just vengeance. And you're sitting there like, but that doesn't mean anything. You're an idiot. You've been doing.
You still gotta beat up the bad guys.
No part of your Batman is going to change next movie. There's gonna be no change because he was doing all that. Other than the fact that he was just bad. I mean, he was behind the Riddler the whole time.
Yeah, maybe do your homework
Yeah,
a little bit.
yeah.
He was even supposed to
that
be the more
detective
detective-y
action.
Batman,
Yeah,
and he was
right,
like,
yeah.
He was a terrible detective.
I didn't see this
terrible
coming. You got me. You got me.
He literally, and then you just had the new Gordon, who just the whole movie was like, what does this mean? The whole movie.
he was so useless.
If you actually go and watch that, like please be my guest, go and watch it and be like, I'm actually going to listen to what Gordon says. He'll enter a room and he'd be like, man, what does this mean? And then he just looks over, he's like, jeez. Do you know what this means, man? And like it's just every single one of his lines. It's just like that.
He was
Pretty good.
you know what
useless.
he was like Edward James Olmos's Two-Face in the Val Kilmer Batman.
Oh my
Batman
gosh.
Forever.
I want
It's
to
a
forget
terrible
about those
movie.
movies.
Yeah, I know you do.
forever.
I lost what I was gonna say.
I mean,
Oh,
Who
yeah,
was
yeah.
that?
So
did you say Tommy Lee Jones or did you say someone else?
It
It was Tommy Lee
it was
Jones.
Tommy
You're
Lee
right. Not Edward
Jones.
James Olmos. It was Tommy Lee Jones.
I
You're
was-
right. You're right.
Have I seen movies?
No,
before?
it was Tommy Lee Jones. You're right. You're right. They both have that kind
I
of
got you.
pockmarked
Yeah.
face.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, so at the end of the Batman, right? He's got the Riddler's got all his goons. And I think they're supposed to be like far right alt-right Proud Boys activists. I'm looking like that. Oh, it's Antifa. It's clearly Antifa.
Yeah.
No, that
Proud Boys. I forgot about that.
Yeah, they were like. So I think that's what they were trying to do, but I'm looking at this like, no, that's definitely Antifa.
Yeah, that got
There's
weird.
no question.
But I think that trope
They got weird.
that trope just like I think it just doesn't land for me when you try to be like, oh yeah, like the main character, he's just like the bad guy. It's just circumstances that changed him, and I'm like, that's your decisions in those circumstances. Like the live action Cinderella did this wonderfully, where it's starting to paint the evil stepmom the whole movie like, oh, there's going to be some redeeming backstory. You're going to find out, and then you find out she was mistreated. But then Cinderella looks at her and goes, yeah, you still had a choice like I had a choice. I've been mistreated by you my whole life, and I'm not going to choose to destroy you.
This is the spirit of the age, and more than just character development.
Yeah.
You see this in nations. Nations, there's a kind of false equivalency in nations and religions.
Yeah.
This kind of like, but what about the Crusades? Or, but the U.S. has done bad things too.
What about the
it's
Crusades?
true,
Like,
it's
there were bad things that happened in the Crusades, but why did the Crusades happen? Oh, yeah, because the Muslims were conquering all of Europe. The reason why North Africa is largely Muslim is because the Muslims came out of Mecca and conquered their way through North Africa and were conquering over Europe and got stopped by the Crusaders.
And they'd done that for about 400 years before there was any kind of a serious collective response,
and
which was
and
kind of
that's not to
haphazard in its
excuse the
expression.
heinous things that happened during the Crusades,
For sure.
But to understand that, if you look at the historical context, it's not just Christians were like, we hate Muslims, let's go kill them. That's not at all what happened.
Yeah.
And we know that we know historically why they have. Anyways,
but that's just that's the easy way out for anybody that doesn't like a certain thing, right? Like if I'm sitting here and somebody's not a fan of the things I'm doing, the second I screw up, like that's just going to be the thing that's held up. It's not forget reason or anything like that. It's like, okay, well, that's just the one thing that I'm going to hold to.
Yeah. And I think that is reflected in the heroes of the more recent movies, where it's like, we can't give them flaws, because if they have flaws, then people will be like, oh, they're just a horrible character. It's like, no, you have to have a flawed character or we can't relate to them.
Right.
And also these aloof, unflappable characters really come off as arrogant and a lot of times evil.
Well,
they're like these emotionless robots running around mowing bad guys down. You're like, I'm pretty sure Hans, I'll be the baddies.
Yeah.
I'm not sure you're the good
skulls
guy here.
on your lapel, right? Yeah.
Have you noticed the skulls?
Yeah.
I'll be the baddies, right?
but I think that a lot of times, especially now, you'll get the main character, the hero of the story, and the thing that they have to overcome, their arc, will be disbelieving something that's been put on them, right? Like it's taking off something that society has put on their head and finally living into who they're supposed to be. Like that's the thing that they're accomplishing.
Or it's Disney and you're just trying to buck your father. And it doesn't matter that you're princess, you got it all. I want more.
Right. It's like your dad was oppressive in some way because I don't know. And I mean, and the problem is that people like they fool themselves into relating to that, right? Because then you go, oh yeah, well I'm only where I am because I'm victimized in some way, and so I can relate to this main character. Look, you see, they could beat everybody as the second that they just stopped believing these negative thoughts about themselves. Like they had a bunch of characters saying you'll never do it, and as soon as they said, you know what, I actually can do it, that was their character arc. I'm like, that's a lame character arc.
And if I might just
because
put on
nothing
my philosopher
changed.
hat for a second, it's what I was talking about the other day. It's a reflection of our postmodern society that if you're not anchoring, if you can't anchor yourself to something outside of yourself, which in a postmodern society where you decide what truth is,
right,
then reality is determined completely internally, which is completely contradictory and doesn't actually
good luck.
Doesn't track on anything in reality. But if that's what your philosophy is, which for a lot of people is, it's very nihilistic, ends up being a very nihilistic philosophy. And
well, because then nobody can speak into your life, and then you realize really quickly that I don't want to, but like you realize you're kind of a crappy person. Like we all have these big,
and that's the thing is because you become the center of all things, and you want something to aspire to. Well, if it's just you, then you have to come up with a reason why you're not where you want to be or you can be. Because as much as people try to say it, there are objective standards for morality, for things like that. Because if there weren't, why would you ever feel like something was unjust?
Yeah,
If
you
there-
couldn't
if there
criticize
isn't-
anything.
You couldn't criticize anything,
Nothing,
right? So
yeah.
there are objective standards, whether you agree with that idea or not.
Yeah,
you
or
live,
what they are,
You
yeah.
live as though there are objective standards.
For real.
You internally feel as though there are objective standards, or the word justice is a meaningless word.
Or you're a psychopath. Yeah.
Or well,
yeah.
but can't speak to that one.
Yeah.
But because of that, then you have to come up with a reason why you're not able to obtain what you think you should or what you know you're capable of. And you have two paths, right? It comes down to a choice. You can either say, well, I need to put in the effort and make sacrifices and make these things work. Or the easier way and the way that gives you a false sense of moral superiority is to say, well, it's because of my circumstances and these situations surrounding me. So I'm not to blame. I just need to realize my own potential and then I'll succeed. But, the man is holding me down, or society, or, systemic biases, or whatever it happens to be. And it's not to say that there aren't biases that people and corporations and other things,
Sure.
governments can put on you. Those, again, there are external blockades. But to say that those things are the reason that you're not succeeding, maybe in some cases, but you can always find a way around if you have the gumption to actually do it. And we know this is true because we have so many stories of people who
were
the face
really
of the odds,
down and out.
in the face of the
Didn't
odds,
have arms, so to speak.
If
Yeah.
you go back to even the civil rights movement, like that's when you really truly had systemic racism and Jim Crow laws and things like that.
Yeah.
And did they say, well, I'm the victim and I just have moral superiority? No, they went and did something about it.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right? In the face of tremendous opposition, and they overcame that. And that should be, I think if MLK was around today, he would be horrified with the stances that young people particularly are
Seen
taking
that episode
today.
of The Boondocks?
I
don't-
watch
we
clips
don't
of
need to talk about it
I
too
watch
much,
clips of the
but,
Boondocks, and they always make me laugh hysterically.
Well,
but
there's
I'm like,
one
I can't
where-
ever quote the show to anyone.
But there's an episode where he'd just been in a coma this whole time. and they bring him, they get him out of it. He comes to. He's in the modern
Is MLK?
age. Yeah, the man. And then he's hanging out with Louis and the other one, not Louis.
It's Huey and
Huey, yeah, yeah.
and I can't remember the kid's name.
Right.
Speaking of
And
coming,
he's showing him society, and he's horrified.
Yeah.
And it culminates in a pretty edgy speech that is inspiring, but also telling, because he's. And then at the end, he pretty much does a mic drop and says, I see where this is all going. This shit's going to hell or whatever, and I'm not going with you. I'm moving to Canada.
that nowadays that's a mistake. They'll just kill him.
Yeah, that was a few years ago, but
Yeah. So, going back to the something I just remembered from Russell's Rhapsody, going back to the he wasn't actually dead. In the end, like they're when they have the party at Ticonderoga's house, Peter's narrating, and he's like, it was everything got wrapped up neatly. Even some people who we thought were dead were alive. And Blackie's in a wheelchair and he's fine.
I didn't notice that.
They wheel Blackie out in a wheelchair and he's just there.
Also, for viewers, by the way, Blackie is just a guy.
Blackie is
He's
just
the
the dude.
white
I was-
dude.
yeah,
It
he's
has
just- he's just-
nothing
he's just the
to-
name of the-
We're saying that it's not a.
Just
in case
I was like,
you
that
were
was
like,
an
why are
interesting
they
choice
saying
of
this?
name for this white guy with a gringo
Well,
mustache.
He wore black, right?
He wore
Maybe
black.
he wore
I
black.
guess.
He wore black.
He had
and
to.
they called him. They called
Always
him Blackie.
hurting people, but I saw
But I
something
saw
more.
Knew how to touch.
How to
How to
feel.
feel. Oh my god! Can't believe you didn't like that. movie.
So yeah. Overall thoughts on Rustler's Rhapsody. Let's wrap it up.
Yeah, let's wrap it up. It was a
Nathaniel,
fun movie. So this is one of the things where meta comedy can either be overbearing and grating, like it is in like She-Hulk and most Marvel stuff, but it can also be done really well. I think the first Deadpool did it really well.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily always have fourth wall breaks. That is a part of it. I think Community did meta humor really well. Like when it lands, it's hysterical.
Community's
when it
great.
doesn't land, it's just the most obnoxious thing. But I think Russell's Rhapsody does a great job with it. It's there, but it's not overstated. And this is one thing I really enjoy, just in general in comedies, is when they don't dwell on a joke too long. You say the joke and you move on. And I think all my favorite comedy things have a very high, I would say, a very high joke density.
That's why laugh tracks are so annoying. I feel like.
Oh, man.
Spies
You're
laugh tracks, like,
sitting-
don't
you're
tell me
sitting
when.
in the
Now,
joke.
when it's older sitcoms where
It's
there
not
are
even
actually
funny.
people in
Yeah.
the audience laughing, that's organic laughter. So that
Yeah.
and you can tell.
Seinfeld.
You can tell. Yeah, Seinfeld. I said Kramer. Seinfeld. Frasier.
Yeah,
Frasier,
yeah.
Seinfeld.
You can tell.
I've never watched Seinfeld. Never got into it.
Frasier.
Seinfeld rules.
Frasier's
Seinfeld is the
hysterical.
best
I-
TV show that's ever been made.
Well, this explains so much.
But Seinfeld's intellectual, though.
But I think movies like that where they don't dwell on a joke, they tell the joke, they move on, and they don't. This is one thing where meta humor I think fails a lot is when people in the comedy acknowledge the joke or point out the joke, because I think when you tell the joke and move on, then it rewards you rewatching. You're like, hey, I never noticed that joke before. Right.
It's also like not like holding the audience's hand through the bits.
I've seen this movie 300 times, and you guys have already mentioned several instances that I never met.
Right. So I think movies that are like rich in not just like well told jokes, like audio dialogue jokes, but also visual puns, like and there are obvious ones like an Airplane when he calls the Mayo Clinic and the back shelf is just jars of mayonnaise all on the back shelf. Stuff like that, and that was nonstop for that kind of Airplane is completely nonstop.
Yeah, saturated.
It is chock full of jokes. Warning, it's PG. There are boobies in it, just like completely random.
PG movie.
It was another time.
PG movie. So I did not remember that, and I watched it with my mother, and I was like, I don't remember that scene, but I'm going to remember that in the future, so I remember to warn people about that. There is a booby scene. It's when they get on the plane. Just be warned.
And it's like really up in front and center.
People freaking. It's like people on the plane start freaking out, and the camera's looking down the aisle, and people are freaking out, and then suddenly this naked woman just comes in and just jumps out. It's like a 2 second. 2 seconds of titties
for no
reason. And you're like, and that's why I didn't remember it happened, because it's so abrupt. My brain just didn't remember that happened. And then when we were watching again, I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot about that part.
You'll never forget.
It's a real cerebral comedy.
It's
real thinking man.
It's a thinking man's humor.
That's the thing. You can have dumb jokes, and smart jokes together. And I think comedies that marry those well are my favorite comedies. Like they're layered.
And your thoughts?
Those are the hardest to make.
Liam, let's hear what you think about.
I'll never watch it again. I get it. I get why you guys enjoy it. Not my thing. Couldn't be less my thing, I would say.
I think it could be. It could have been Ghostbusters 2016.
Okay.
I'm sure it could have been
barely
worse.
A comedy, but yeah, no, it could have been worse. It just falls in this. I feel like I have a very broad category that this falls into. I would put Three Musketeers in this category as well.
Which one?
You mean
the one with Steve Martin and
you mean Three Amigos?
Three Amigos.
Oh,
Three
yeah.
Amigos.
Yeah.
Three Amigos.
Not the same movie.
Not the same movie. It just feels like for some reason I put it in that category. It just feels. I will never like laugh out loud at a movie like this. Whereas like I laugh out loud at Austin Powers like every 5 minutes.
Well, I'll say that comedies typically aren't my thing. I definitely laughed several times in this, so I was like, it did its job as a comedy. Like, there was stuff I wanted to talk about with it, like that was actually kind of confused about or just wanted to. So I think it did its job. Am I going to go race back and watch it? Probably not. I mean, is it something that I think my parents might laugh at? Probably. I might recommend it for them. Like, oh, it was funny. You should go watch it. But it's probably not like my top choice to go back and watch again. But I think for what it is, I thought it was funny. I enjoyed and I like the fact that it's an hour and 20 minutes. Like I could go back.
Yeah, I think that's the hour and a half or less is the appropriate length for comedy, because comedy more than anything else can wear its welcome out.
Yeah,
no matter how good it is.
So Alan, give us your final thoughts on your movie.
Well, it's hard to tell exactly why I picked it, but I kept coming back to it. I was thinking about some other thinking type movies, because I'm into that kind of thing, and I watch some weird stuff that I can't get other people into. You guys are movie hounds, soulless, shameless movie, the stuff you guys watch. So I knew you'd have something to say, good or bad, and we'd be able to make something of it.
Is there? Have we watched a movie where we had nothing to say?
No.
I think Ghostbusters 2, we had very little to say.
Well, we've been pretty close with some of the Disney movies we had to watch. Like we watched Dumbo and then the live action remake.
Live action
and
Dumbo. No, I had plenty to say. Well,
it just turned into Nathaniel ranting and me and Liam falling asleep the whole time.
Oh my god, that was an all-time rant. That was an all-time.
Me and Liam were making eye contact, and we were just like, dude.
But I just wanted a breath of fresh air, really. I wanted to go back into something older. I was tired of everything modern.
Yeah.
Amen.
And
Amen.
I just wanted.
I will say, despite anything that I didn't like about it, it is a breath of fresh air to go back and just watch a movie that there's not going to be any just garbage
shoved down your throat.
Agendas down your throat.
I will say the dressage was very impressive. Like
Do you know what dressage is?
It's the horse dancing. Like to to train a horse to sit down like that.
Don't act like you knew what dressage was, Greg.
It used to be in the Olympics. I don't know if
No
they took it out of the
chance
Olympics, but it
Greg
was
knew
in the
what
Olympics.
The only reason I know about it
Yeah, no, you didn't.
is it was during, I believe it was a time when Mitt Romney was trying to run for president.
Yeah.
And he was kind of like
He had a dressage
questioned
horse
on
in
it,
the
like,
Olympics.
because he's trying to frame himself as a man of the people sort of a thing. I'm like, what about this dressage shit that no one can even spell? Let alone, like, no one knows what this is. This is not normal.
It's
people
stupid horse dancing, but
common stuff. You know, this
it looks
isn't-
silly, but it's like really impressive.
Sure, yeah, no, there's technical stuff going on there, but the average citizen doesn't know. Either way, that's dressage. That's my only.
Yeah, when the horse
reference
was
to
like doing the
dressage.
like bounce back and forth.
wish
like,
my horse could do
horses
that.
don't. Yeah, like horses don't walk like that. All right.
All right, Alan. So the way we like to end our shows, I don't know if you've watched to the end of any of our shows, but we like to have Liam read a Mad Lib to you, and you would fill it in. If you've ever done a Mad Lib,
No,
you never done a Mad Lib, so he's going to ask you for certain things like
I'm
nouns.
sober. Is this going to be an issue?
Never has
gonna
been
be fun.
before.
Make it fun. Make it fun.
Yeah,
for us,
make
Alan.
it. You can make it edgy and fun. You
Lot
can
of
make
pressure
it,
on this.
You can make it like a Western. So the idea here is that we do a Mad Lib with every guest. They end up being pretty wacky. At the end of season 2, which we're in right now, we will go through our Mad Libs and pick one of them to actually make a short film. And Liam, Nathanael, and I will recreate one of these Mad Libs in a short film and post it on our channel.
What's about to happen? Can you give me a demonstration?
Oh, so an ad lib, it's like give me a noun, give me an adjective, give me a verb ending and why.
Yeah, like I'm literally gonna say I'm not gonna read anything except for
he's just gonna say,
I'm gonna say
give me a
foreign
noun.
word.
And you're gonna give him one.
Dressage.
Yeah, exactly.
Good luck
And so
selling that.
You basically like you're gonna give him all these answers, and it's gonna be filling in a story that you don't know.
I got
and
you.
You're just filling
Okay,
in words,
yeah.
and so by the end he reads it, or Nathaniel reads it in a
there's
really.
probably-
Nathaniel kind of performs it in a really fun way,
Dressage.
and then
Oh man.
it comes together really good.
Okay,
So,
you need music. You want me to give you a theme?
what theme?
Water, river.
Canoeing.
So you just told me exactly what the title
No,
is.
shh.
Ah, shit.
Dumb.
All right, that's fine.
move on.
I'll go and look for something like that. You just go perform.
Go to the
thing.
next
Number. Give me a number.
Any number.
Any
Oh,
number.
it's still on me.
Yeah, it's all
it's
you.
all you, buddy. You're our guest.
50.
Adjective. Give me 2 adjectives, actually, while you're at it.
Wiley.
Ooh,
Oh, Wiley.
like it.
Are you keeping it thematic? Like, are you thinking like the Western?
No,
Like,
no,
okay.
that just I don't know where that came
Act
from.
like I
the
never
hat.
said canoe.
It's the hat.
Oh man. Crafty.
Okay. Noun.
Wiley and crafty.
Noun.
Yeah.
Noun and then a plural noun.
Yeah, Coyote.
And then
Coyotes. No relation.
coyotes.
I don't know where this is coming from.
Plural noun.
Coyotes.
Days.
Adjective.
Didn't we do this already?
Oh, there's a couple more.
Yeah, you're just gonna keep.
There are
going
only
through.
so many types of words.
Man, I don't. You can tell. I just don't think like this.
You're a thinking man.
Everyone freezes up on Mad Libs
Okay, good.
because you're like, oh, I can think of a billion words, unless you ask me to think of a billion words.
Rabid. Is that? That's
Yeah.
That's,
Yeah.
yeah. That's an
Adjective.
adjective. Yeah.
Noun. Rabbit.
Person, place, or thing.
Not,
Rabid.
Rabbit.
Yeah, don't listen to him.
No, I said
Oh, yeah.
noun. Rabbit.
Yeah, don't listen to him.
Think of a noun, any noun.
Any noun. Type of liquid also is next if you want to put
Don't give him too much. Just think
Type
of a
of
noun.
liquid's pretty easy.
Think of a noun.
Person, place, or thing.
Anything.
the pressure. Tired.
Tired is not a noun.
Tire.
Like Yanta. Tired.
Okay.
Type of liquid.
Warm gin.
Yeah, gin.
Gin.
Say
With the
warm
human
gin.
hair. Warm gin with the human hair.
I'll write that down. Verb.
Make it interesting.
What tense?
Doesn't
Doesn't
get
say.
one.
Just a verb.
Verb.
We'll adjust tense wise.
I won't.
Ran. Run.
Ran, run,
whichever.
run.
Yeah.
Usually it says verb in
Yeah,
ing.
it'll say. It'll say.
So
it'll
just
tell
do
you. It's
run.
present tense unless it tells you otherwise.
Noun.
Get goofy.
I'm
here.
not gonna
Come
go.
on.
I'm not gonna
Get
go.
goofy.
I'm not gonna give you more than one. I'll give you.
What's that damn thing called? It's that instrument with the crank. It's kind of like
Oh, the Victrola?
no. That might be a type of them.
Instrument with crank.
They called them a symphony at one point. A hurdy-gurdy.
Hurdy-gurdy.
Nice.
Nice.
Plural noun.
Strings.
On your hurdy-gurdy.
Okay, I don't want to overwhelm you. We got 2 nouns back to back.
2 more?
2 more.
Oh,
Yeah.
God.
We're almost at the end.
Noun
Bulbs.
heavy. Bulbs?
Yeah.
Okay, another one.
Just bulb.
Bulb would be singular. Yeah.
And another noun.
Lug nut.
Nice.
Back to
Nathaniel
tires, I
liked that
guess.
one. Verb past tense.
There you go.
Jump, i.e. jumped.
Crapped.
Crapped. Verb ending in ing.
Taxing.
Like this Mad Libs. Adjective.
2 more. 2 more entries.
Thank you. Rancid.
Okay. And then the last one is
took a dark
noun.
turn at the end.
Last one is noun. Finish us off.
Threaded stud.
He
Got your mechanic brain on.
he started hitting his stride towards the end. Threaded stud.
Yeah.
What a stud. A
All
threaded
right,
stud.
what sort of accent should I use? What do you think?
All right.
Indian.
Well, I
Oh
mean,
my gosh.
Native American.
it says Spanish words, so
Okay. So
you think
do your-
I was actually.
yeah.
Oh, I don't know how I could keep that up.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, this is Mad Lib number ? In season 2 from Alan, and we're about to have Nathaniel performing it. So
channel my Antonio Banderas.
all right, here we go. And 1 and a 2 and
Canoe comes from the Spanish word dressage. This type of vessel was first described by Columbus in the year 50. It is a wily boat with its sides meeting in a crafty edge at each coyote. A canoe is moved by 1 or more days. It is important that you learn the rapid way to paddle your tire before putting it in the warm gin with human hair. Should your canoe overturn and you do not know how to run, hang on to the side of the hurdy-gurdy, kick your strings, and head for the safety of the bulb. If you surface under the canoe, locate the air lug nut, which will allow you to breathe until you are crapped. Once you have mastered the art of taxing, you can enjoy an overnight rancid trip, which is often the highlight of the camping threaded stud.
That could be like an instructional video we do, like a spoof instructional video on how to operate a canoe.
Locate
properly.
the air lug nuts. It was my favorite line.
well done, team. Well done. Alan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I had a lot of fun.
Are we doing, since we missed a week, are we doing next week or are we doing in 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
We will be doing in 2 weeks,
Okay.
and keep an eye out. It might be on like a Wednesday or something.
Okay.
We'll have to.
I
we'll
will
have to
say,
convene
for the
and
month
talk.
of June, I will not be able to meet on a Tuesday or Thursday because we have swim meets, just for the month of June.
All right, we will convene here at the 4D podcast and figure out exactly
Whose pick is it next?
what we're gonna do. Liam, it would be yours.
Oh, boy.
I'm gonna
And
make my
so-
friend watch Good Will Hunting.
That's a good movie, though.
No, it's
Wait,
the best movie.
They have to pick though. It can't be your
Yeah.
pick.
I mean, I'm gonna find a friend that likes Good Will Hunting.
That hasn't seen Good Will Hunting and be like, I should pick this movie.
Liam is gonna make a new friend just so that they can watch
I'm
Good Will
gonna post
Hunting.
on Facebook Marketplace, looking for a friend
Looking for someone
that
to
likes
suggest
Good
Good
Will
Will Hunting.
Must like.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Well, until next time, we are the 4D podcast, and we will see you later.
Wahoo!